All right, thanks for watching. Thanks for joining. In this video, I'm going to show you how to set up opus1.io pretty much from scratch, end to end. It's going to be a pretty long session. You might want to, use the index and the table of content and kind of go directly to a certain section if you're more interested in certain topics more than others. But basically, I'm going to kind of go through the whole setup for a music school. So we're going to set up this Opus One Music Studio here from scratch. So you just created an account, you got your new Opus One IO account right from the beginning, and this is where we are right now. So as you can see, you have this kind of a wizard that tells you kind of like the next steps on what you need to do to set up your account. So we're going to go first through the business settings, and we're going to set up, we're going to go to business, and some information have been preset by default, but you see it's missing a lot of stuff, branding, naming, etc., etc. So we're going to go through it. We're going to go through the first tab, the general settings. And as I go through it, I'm going to kind of like set up the the business settings, and also kind of like, go through all the settings and explain them one by one. And hopefully that will be beneficial for you guys watching. And what we're going to do is get started. Okay, so Opus One IO business settings. So I'm going to go to the business settings here. Actually, I'm going to open this up so you see a little bit what's going on here. So I'm in the settings menu here. I'm going to the business general tab. So there is two parts, the branding section and the business information, including some of the settings that you want to choose to turn on or off. So let's click on the business information. So you have the name of your music school, a tagline. The tagline may be displayed in different parts of the interface. So let's say something like "Everyone deserves music." Your contact information, your website. You actually may want to put a full URL here. So depending on how your website is set up, your Facebook link, your Twitter link, your Instagram link. These social media links will be displayed in all the templated emails that Opus One IO will send to your customers for appointment reminders, when their lessons schedule is changed. So those will be always there, along with your business information, your location information. We'll get to that in a minute. So of course you don't have to put those, but you are more than welcome to. Email from. So this is the reply to address when Opus One IO sends email to your customers. And if they happen to just reply to those emails, this is where it's going to go. So that's usually going to be your info at here, info at musicopus1.com, or admin at, or front desk at. So this is kind of like your front desk email where you want emails to go to. Next, your country, your time zone. So very important, you want to set up your time zone. I'm in Pacific here. I'm going to set, Pacific. I'm going to set Pacific time here. We support multiple time zones. You can have multiple locations in different time zones. So you want to make sure you select the right time zone. English, US here. Oops. We're going to set up English. As of this recording, we do not support international languages, but we will in the future. Your business phone number, which also will be displayed on your emails. And these are, next section here are client custom attributes. So these are attributes you can add for your clients that you want to keep track of. So I'm going to create a couple. So for example, the typical ones are, how was that customer referred? Does that student maybe have allergies, emergency contact, things like that. You can put as many as you want. And then you will see later on when we create clients, we can populate those fields. Then we have a couple of settings for your business. You can choose to allow clients to respond to messages and to post messages visible by your teachers. So if it's off, it's off. Only teachers can post messages visible by the students and their parents or their account managers, or you can allow the parents to respond as well. If you do turn this on, you also have the ability to set some kind of disclaimer message. So this would typically be something like, please use this for education questions or maybe lesson related questions, not for rescheduling, that type of thing. And you may want to say something also along the line of, your teacher will see this message on the day of your lesson. Why do we want to say that? Because you don't want to set the expectation that your teachers will respond to your clients 24/7. That would not be a reasonable expectation. The next thing we're going to enable here is the shared library. So shared library is you will see in a few minutes that we have the ability for students and teachers to exchange files, music sheets, MP3, videos, any kind of files. It's included in your Opus One IO service. We also have a shared library, so you can have a folder or library of files available to all your teachers. So you can put there your standard forms, your courses, your material, music sheet, things that all your teachers are going to be using. So once this is all populated, don't forget to click Update Business or it will not be saved. So now we have our business information saved. Next is branding. So you want Opus One IO to be an extension to your website. It's not going to fully replace your website, and it's not the intention. The goal here is to be an extension to your website and be a portal that your customers can go to reschedule lessons, to access their schedule, to see their subscriptions, to pay their invoices, to communicate with their teacher, etc., etc. So you want it to feel like you want it to be branded. So we're going to click here. We're going to put a background image. So you're going to click Upload here. I'm going to go to my assets. So I have a couple of things already prepared. So we're going to put the nice music-related background image. One thing you may want to make sure is that this image should be, high resolution enough. It needs to look nice. It's going to be your background on your login page, but make sure it is compressed. Make sure it's not too big, or your loading time will be longer, and your customers might be a little bit frustrated if your homepage takes 3 seconds to load. So I'm going to select this, upload this background image. Great. Now I'm going to upload a business logo. So same thing, we're going to pick a logo here. So I have a logo ready here. Notice that it has transparency. Your logo will be displayed in different parts of the user interface, and it will be better if it's transparent, so it adapts nicely if it's a white background or a gray background or a darker background. So that's a best practice. You may want to contact a graphic designer if you don't have a logo for your business that has transparency. So I'm going to upload this. Also, make sure your logo is not too big. 50 to 2 or 300K kilobyte is perfectly reasonable. Don't upload a 3 megabyte photo, or you will have your interface be a little bit slower than it should be. All right, the business logo uploaded here. Now we're going to upload a fav icon. A fav icon actually is a little icon that will show up in your menu bar here, depending on which browser you use. It's not required, it's an option. It looks nice, it looks more professional. And also, here, it's going to show up here in your tabs as well. So you want to pick a squared version of your logo or reduced version of your logo, something that looks like your business, so that your admin staff, your teachers, your clients can recognize the tabs that they have open on your business and Opus One IO portal. So I'm going to upload here a fav icon. So I have a version of my logo here. With transparency as well. It looks nicer and in a square aspect ratio. All right. Next, I don't recommend changing too much the base colors. These are kind of set up by a graphic designer to have some kind of depth and highlight the right things. However, you may want to set up your primary color to look like your business. So I'm going to pick here, I have a value preset. Primary color, let's pick this FF4141. So you can type it here. So I have a bright red here, and I'm going to update this as well. So now that you've set this, as you notice, your Opus One IO will be branded with your logo, and if you happen to log out, your background will be set as well. Okay, so next we're going to go through different settings very quickly. Subscription, this is your subscription, your Opus One IO subscription. Contact us if you have any questions. It will be calculated based on the number of locations and the number of students you have. So please contact us for more questions. Next is payment. So all your Opus One IO payment, your subscription, your lessons, your auto pay, your potentially your retail, your membership fees, things like that will go through Opus One IO, and we do work with Card Connect, which is part of Fiserv. And we need to get an account set up for you. Contact us at support@opusone.io if you have any question on this. We will have to set this up for you and put you in touch with Card Connect for setting up your electronic payment processing. Next, integration. So currently we support integration with MailChimp. So if you want to do email marketing, MailChimp is a great tool. We might add support for other platforms in the future, like Constant Contact, MyEmma, or others. Currently, we only support MailChimp as of June 2021. There is instructions here on how to set up your MailChimp integration. Basically, you need to log into MailChimp, follow these instructions, create an API key. The ID will be your email. The key will be the API key you created. And then what they used to call a list ID is actually called now an audience ID. So you need to create a new audience or use an existing audience and get the ID following these instructions and put it here. Click Update Your Business, and then within an hour, every hour, your Opus One IO data, your client data, will be synchronized with MailChimp. And then you will be able to send your newsletter. About email, a couple of things I would like to point out is that MailChimp and tools such as MailChimp are great for marketing and for newsletter, and you do want to have a newsletter. Now, when you do day-to-day, what I call operational emails, you may want to use a real email client and not a quote-unquote marketing email platform. The reason for that is because a lot of people don't read marketing emails because they're being flagged by their browsers or by their mail clients, and they end up being flagged and going to spam or junk, and people don't read them because they think they're promotions and other things like that. So we will talk in a few minutes about how to actually efficiently and effectively email clients through Opus One IO. Okay, next template. So these are your business message templates. So the welcome message is a welcome message that will be displayed to your clients when they go to what we call the self-booking interface for booking trial lessons, for enrolling into group class on their own, and if they happen to not have an account yet and have to create an account the first time they register, or if they go direct to your /register, so this is a special URL /register that will be available for you to point to from your website, for example, where people can basically create an account. So if you go to your URL, I'm going to show you a quick example here in an incognito window, and I'm going to type /register. And as you can see, you will get the background that you set, and this is that welcome message that we're talking about. So this is obviously customizable. You want to make it welcoming and explain a little bit what's happening here and what you're expecting from them. And usually this is where your clients are going to be creating an account for themselves if they're signing up as an adult student, for example, or for themselves and one or more of their dependents, which are going to be usually their children. Okay, next, the welcome email. So this is the welcome email message. There is a version when you create a staff. A staff will be a front desk person, an admin person, or a teacher, or a manager, or a director working for your school. And the same version, different version for your clients. So when you invite a client, when you create an account, or when they happen to create an account by themselves, they're going to receive that welcome email. You want to make it personal. You want to make it warm and welcoming, and explain a little bit what is this portal, what they can do on this portal. So this is an example of a template for it. Next, business links. So we're going to get to that later. This is a way to create links from, for example, your online ads, your Google, Facebook, or other promotional online campaigns, your newsletter. If you want to promote a class, a teacher, or just have a generic link for people to book trial lessons, you're going to create one of those custom links. So we're going to get back to that later in this video, but that's basically where you would set up these links. Okay, so next, now we have our business settings set. Next, we're gonna set up our location. So your locations are gonna be where you're offering your services, and we support different type of locations. By default, you have none, but we're gonna create a couple. So let's kind of like do one physical location, and we're gonna start actually with the online locations. Nowadays, a lot of schools are offering online lessons. If you don't need to specify an online location. Online is its own location. It behaves specifically for online lessons. We'll talk a little bit about what that means. So we're going to create a location of type online. You cannot change its name, by the way, but you can set a description. So we're going to say online lessons are convenient, safe, and fun. And if you happen to only have an online location, and you may want to set up a Yelp link here, for example, but usually your Yelp link will be for your physical primary locations, which we will create later. You want to set up your time zone. This is a reference time zone. You may be operating in multiple time zones, but you need to have a reference, which is what we're going to be using to determining when is the beginning of the month or the day or the week and things like that. Closed hours and days. So you will see that for other locations, we have open hours and closed hours. Here we don't have open hours because we assume that when you're online, you're operating at any time. So there's no specific open hours. However, there are closed hours, and those closed hours are used to override potential opening hours. So what that means is that if, for example, you are closed on July 4th in the US for the holiday, and you want to automatically block all your teachers' availabilities on July 4th, you would basically set July 4th as closed. So let's do it. For example, I'm going to add a closed hour here. Specific date, it's not a recurring time. It's going to be only one day. I'm going to set up here July 4th. And we're going to say all day. And basically, that means we are closed for July 4th. But we want to make sure this will automatically block any teacher available on that day. Here, it's actually happens to be a Sunday. And if we had teachers available at the online location on a Sunday, they will be available on any other Sunday but July 4th, which is automatically blocked here. So it's a good way to block specific times and specific days for holidays, most likely. We'll get back to that in a minute when we create the other primary location. Next, we're going to make this location visible by visitors and clients. Visitors are people who are browsing your Opus One.io portal and don't have an account yet or don't happen to be logged on. So we don't know who they are. They may be clients, they may be new clients that we don't have in the system yet. A client is somebody who does have an account, somebody that we know, somebody has logged in, already is logged in at the moment. And this could be useful to make certain locations, maybe like if you have a party or a recital or an exam or an event in another location and you don't want that location to be visible by visitors, you would set it only visible by clients, for example. Okay, so now we have the online location created. Let's create another type of location that's a little bit particular, is the home location. So that's if you're offering home lessons, obviously. So same thing, we're going to do it quickly. We're going to call it home. You can create a different region. So you can maybe call it region 1, region 2, and separate your home locations in different regions so you can filter them more easily later on. So there's going to be the home lessons in the XXX region, for example, and you can have multiple potentially. So the rest of the settings are the same as the online lesson, online location, as we just previously talked about. We're going to do the same thing. We're going to make sure that we're closed on July 4th. So this is going to be set per location all day. Here we go. And we're going to make this location visible. Okay, now we have home lessons locations, we have online lesson locations, and now we're going to create a proper brick and mortar studio music school primary location. So add location, we're going to choose primary. So I'm going to use the Opus One Music Studio. So let's call it Opus One Palo Alto Studio. It's a primary location. I'm going to put a thing number here. So we're going to put a little description here. This will be displayed when customers choose and browse your different locations on self-booking interface, for example. So you want to put something a little bit detailed, like conveniently located, blah, 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 etc., etc. Of course, make sure it's properly spelled. And you're probably going to have a Yelp link here as well, and your address. So the system will actually automatically look up your address, so you make sure it matches. Very important, set your time zone. And this is what we're going to set up next, our open and closed hours, as I mentioned earlier. So let's say that we are open, we're going to pick multiple dates. Starting, let's say we're going live July 1st, let's say, so we can set July 1st, or we open in this location July 1st, and we're going to be open, let's say, weekdays, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesdays, Thursday, Friday, from, let's say, 2 p.m. Pacific to 9 p.m. And we're going to repeat this weekly with no end. There's no end. We're going to stay open for the foreseeable future. And we're going to go ahead with this. So that sets our weekdays of open times. And now we're going to say that we also open on maybe on Saturdays. So Saturday from, let's say, 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. And here, let's say we're not open on Sunday. Let's say our studio is closed on Sunday. So if your studio is closed on Sunday, for example, you don't have to specifically set that you're closed on Sundays. You're just not open. You're not specifically open on Sunday. So you don't have to set up close times on Sunday. However, you need to specify that you're closed on certain holidays. So here, for example, we want to make sure that we're closed, let's say multiple dates, and we are going to be closed for the whole July 4th weekend, for example. So we're going to be closed from, let's say, Saturday to, it's going to be all day. We're going to repeat this daily until the July 5th. So from July 3rd, Saturday, July 3rd to July 5th, 2021, and you can add it for the following years later on as well. So this is going to make sure that, again, as I explained earlier, that your teachers are not visible as available during that weekend. And of course, you could set up the online location and the home location accordingly. I'm just giving you different examples here. And we're going to make this location visible by visitors and clients, because we want people to self-enroll and book trial lessons. Next, sales tax. So sales tax usually are different per county. So we assume that each location, maybe in different counties, may have its own sales tax. This is used for calculating sales tax if you need to collect and report sales tax when you do retail. So if you're selling books, equipment, or any other type of music accessories, or any other related accessories that you might be selling, you can set your sales tax here, and it will be calculated when you do a charge, what we call a simple charge. Next, we're going to create our rooms. So we assume that most schools are going to have one or more locations, and in each location you're going to have multiple rooms, multiple studios, multiple, however you want to call them. So we're going to set up multiple rooms. We're going to get back here actually a little bit later, because as we create our rooms, so let's create, we're going to say Studio 01. And by the way, I recommend to, if you have more than 9 or more than 10, if you want them to line up nicely alphabetically, you want to call them, 01, 02, 03. That way you don't go from 1 to 10 directly. And you can put a description. So let's say I'm going to specify that this room has a grand piano. So you can put anything you want here. So it could be a list of instruments. And then right now we don't have any services, right? So the services is what we're going to be creating next. Services are going to be your piano lessons, your makeup, your trials, your group classes, etc., etc. We need to specify which services are applicable for which room. And the purpose here is to make sure that you don't end up booking a drums lesson in a room that doesn't have a drum set, for example, or a piano lesson in a room that doesn't have a piano, for example. So right now we don't have any services yet, so I'm just going to leave this blank and come back to it later and create additional rooms and assign applicable services. So let's create a couple more rooms. So Studio 02, and this one is going to have drums and guitar amps. And we don't have applicable services yet. And let's say create Studio 03, and this one has an upright piano, for example. And here we go. So you can create as many rooms as you need, obviously. And now we're going to go ahead and create this location. So now we have our primary studio. That's where we're going to have our in-person studio lessons. And we have our online location for online lessons and our home location for home lessons. And if you can also create additional location, there's a fourth type that we call events. And events are going to be, for example, if you're hosting a recital, a party, an event, a competition, an exam, a festival, and you want to have that location registered in your Opus One IO because you may want to book an event there, and you will see we support recital and events as well. So this is typically for your non-primary locations. So if you create, if you do have recitals, events, or other, you can set up a location for it and you can record those. Okay, now we have our location set up. So next, we're going to get into the heart of the system. So we're going to go to services. So services can be a little bit complex. There's a lot of different settings. So we're going to go through different type of services and create kind of like a template music school with private lessons, group lessons, events like recitals and other. And we're going to see all the different settings. We're going to try to cover as many settings as possible so that you can kind of like watch this whole video and have a good understanding of what you can do. So when you create a new service, we're going to go and first create a piano lesson. And the typical setup for piano for something like a piano lesson, for example, will be appointment. So appointment, as opposed to sessions, are going to be usually for private lessons. And the reason for that is because you're going to be setting up different appointment services, like a private one-on-one piano lesson or guitar lesson or violin lesson. And you're going to set your teachers, your staff, available for people to make appointment with them at certain times. So maybe you'll have a Joe teacher available on Monday from 2 to 9 p.m. For guitar and piano lessons, both trials, regular lessons, and makeup. Whereas sessions are going to be more for group class setups, where you're going to be setting up your group classes. So let's say you have My First Piano Adventure, you have My Little Mozart, you have different type of group classes. And then you're going to be scheduling sessions at different times. So for example, you're going to have the My First Piano Adventure Saturday 9 a.m. That's every Saturday at 9 a.m., maybe starting in September and ending in December, etc., etc. So for now, we're going to go ahead and create an appointment type service. Here we go. And I usually recommend to put the name of the instrument first in the service name so it aligns alphabetically nicely. And this is going to be a piano private lesson. You can also put the duration in the title. It makes it easy to manage later on. I'm going to pick a photo. So you can pick an existing photo. You can put your own. Usually you want photos that have a 4:3 aspect ratio. And same thing, you want to make sure they're not too big or they will take a while to load. So here we're going to pick a piano photo. We have a few default photos you can use, or you can obviously upload your own. And I'm going to put a very basic short and long description. Short and long description, as well as additional photos, are primarily used for self-booking. They're displayed to your clients when they self-book services, when they enroll for trials and makeup lessons usually. Since, at least as of today, we don't have the capability to enroll for weekly lessons through the self-booking interface, this doesn't really matter, although it's always good to set up your service correctly from the start anyway. So we're just going to put a short and a long description here. What I'm going to do here is, just to be on the safe side, I'm going to go ahead and create this service, and I'm going to go back and update it just to make sure it's created. Sometime, it happens, the interface could time out if you stay too long inactive and you don't want to lose all the settings already put in. So just go ahead and put the basic info and then go ahead and click update to update the rest. Okay, so we're going to set up our piano private lesson here. So this is our 30 minutes. So we have a photo, we have a short description, we have a long description. Now we're going to set up the terms and conditions. So terms and conditions are going to be your studio policy, your waiver. It's going to be what you want your customers to review and approve when they sign up for your lessons. So be as detailed as you want. There is a little trick you can use as well, is you can use this section break here. And this will make your terms and conditions, doesn't have to be in bold. So that allows you to separate sections, and when people will review your terms and conditions, they will be able to review it in different sections and click I agree, I agree, I agree, I agree per section. So let's say we're going to have a first section about membership tuition, and you're going to set up your pricing. So blah blah blah, and then another thing here. You can actually use our properly nicely generated bullet points and formatting here. So let's have another section. We're gonna do cancellation. We're gonna do another section. So as you can see, you can use this section break tag that will automatically make sure that each section is separated and clearly visible, and that they have to read every section and approve it. So we have membership tuition, cancellation, and let's say waiver, for example. Okay, so, and again, these terms and conditions are going to be visible at in different ways. We'll talk about it later, but for example, when you set up a monthly payment plan for this piano lesson here, this is the terms and conditions that customers will be prompted to review and approve until they actually do review and approve them, if you want that they actually review and approve your terms and conditions. And the way it works is you will, let's say if you enroll them through an admin, you enroll them for weekly lessons after they had a trial, for example, and then they will be prompted every 5 days to review the terms and condition and accept it until they actually do review and accept them. And they will be able to receive an email, click the button, read the terms and condition, write that they, check the box that they approve it, and then submit it. Alternatively, if we have another capability to send them a proposal. So let's say they just had a trial lesson and you want to let them enroll on their own. You can send them a proposal for a specific time and a specific location with a specific teacher, and then they will be able to review the terms and conditions and approve them before they actually sign up and enroll into weekly lessons. Next, we're going to set up, actually you don't need another section break here. Next, we're going to set up tags. So tags are just used for filtering and for search, mostly for you and your admins, but also for customers when they do self-booking. So here we're going to put the instruments, we're going to put the duration, so it's easy to search. We're going to write that it's a private lesson. And of course, you can add other parameters. So this is a private lesson, so we're going to put one client. You could also enable up to 2 clients, for example, for semi-private lessons if you want, or 3 clients if you do small semi-private. But note that as of June 2021, we only support semi-private with members of the same household. So mommy and daughter, dad and daughter, or siblings together within the same household under the same payer. Okay, then you can set up age restrictions. Age restrictions are primarily enforced on the self-booking interface, so we don't really need them here for this regular weekly private lesson. So I'm not going to set it up here, but we get back to that when we do the trial lesson in a minute. Again, this is applicable for the self-booking interface. We're going to leave it on, doesn't really matter. Next is online lessons. So how does this work? So if you have lessons that are booked specifically under the online location, what happens is that the students will be, when they log into their Opus One IO account, they will see a join online button that will take them to their teacher's Zoom ID, for example, or Google Hangouts ID, or whatever system you use for video conferencing, that provides a stable and specific URL to access the online lesson, the online appointment. Now, if you don't book the lesson under the online location, you can choose whether you want that join online button to show up or not. So basically what that means is that if you don't want to do hybrid lessons, so if you have teachers at your studio and you want the lessons to be in person only and not have the option to join online, you turn this off or you leave this off. Now, if you want to do hybrid, if you want to have teachers teaching at the studio, for example, but also taking online students and offering out that option for online lesson, you want to turn on the join online, even if the service is not booked under the online location. Okay, now the next settings are primarily specifically set for self-booking. We're going to skip those and get back to that when we talk about trial lessons. And finally, also same thing for client lifecycle status. So you don't really need to set those for regular weekly private lessons. This is going to be useful for trial lessons, for example. We'll get to that in a minute. However, know that once you have somebody enrolled into weekly piano lessons, they will be automatically labeled as members, right? So they will have the member tag, the member label. And they can have multiple lessons, multiple subscriptions active at the same time. And then when their last active subscription is ended or terminated, then they will be automatically labeled as member lost. So again, you don't need to set anything here for client lifecycle status for regular weekly lessons because they will be set automatically essentially. Okay, so now we have our basic settings set. Now we're going to go into calendar. So again, we're looking at our regular piano private lessons, typically weekly lessons paid on a monthly basis. We're going to talk about payments in a minute. Here you can set up the color, you can set different colors for different instruments. This is per service. You can set colors for trials, for different instruments in different colors. The duration of the class here, it's a 30 minutes lesson. We're going to have the same service, but for 45 and for 60 minutes as well. So you'll see that you can easily duplicate it for 45 and 60 minutes and just keep the same settings for pretty much everything else. Next is your appointment reminder. So Opus One.io will send appointment reminders automatically to your clients unless they opted out of it, which they can do under their own client settings. And you can choose when those appointment reminders are sent. So this is something you want to choose strategically. 24 to 28 hours is a good compromise. You don't want to send it too much in advance because if you send it 4 days before the lessons, they will forget. If you want to make sure it's sent maybe the same day, the same morning, you can do 12 hours, 16 hours, 24 hours. One thing I recommend that you also think about these settings within the context of your cancellation policy. Most schools have a late cancellation policy where you may or may not get a credit, for example, if you cancel with less than 24-hour notice. It's nicer for your customers to remind them of their lesson and still give them time to potentially cancel lessons and maybe book makeups later on. Usually customers sometimes get upset if they're being reminded of something when it's already too late to cancel. So just something to keep in mind. The next setting is how many minutes apart will the self-booking appointment slots spaced. So for example, if you have a teacher available for trial from 2 p.m. to 9 p.m., 15 minutes is usually a good setting. So what that means is that the client will be able to enroll at 2 p.m. or 2:15 or 2:30 or 2:45 or 3 p.m., etc., etc. You can set it longer. Some schools do 30 minutes, some do every hour, some shorter, 10, even 5 minutes. I found usually that 15 minutes is a good setting. Next are settings that usually you may not need specifically for private lessons. We also sometimes call those setup and tear down. This is useful, for example, for group classes. If you want to set a group class and you want to make sure the teacher in the room is marked as unavailable 5, 10, or 15 minutes before the class and maybe 5, 10, or 15 minutes after the class, so that it gives them time to set up the class before the lesson, before the class, and tear it down at the end. So that will automatically add some buffer time in the beginning and the end of the lesson. You can always override those limits as an admin. The system will just tell you, hey, teacher X and room X are not available yet, but you can always override it, right? So it's just it's enforced for self-booking, obviously, when clients book lesson. So if you want a certain buffer time between lessons or between classes, that's where you would set up this setting under each service. If you do home lessons and you want to automatically have a 10, 15, 20 minutes driving time between each lesson, you can also use this and say, for example, 20 minutes after each lesson, the teacher will be automatically blocked. Next is your enrollment window. So this is primarily for self-booking. We're not going to set it up here. We'll talk about this again when we do the trial lesson. And schedule optimization strategy is a very cool setting that allows us to try to optimize your teacher's schedule as much as possible. So we're going to turn this on. We're going to choose the minimize gaps strategy here. And what this will do, we don't really care about self-booking here, but we do care about the window. So we're going to be pretty aggressive. We're going to try to minimize gaps as much as possible. And basically what this will do is it will prioritize slots between lessons for your teachers or around lessons, existing lessons. So for example, if you have a brand new teacher starting and available from 2 p.m. to 9 p.m., we're not gonna let people book lessons at 2, 4, and 6 and leave these huge holes in your teacher's schedule. We're gonna offer a smaller enrollment window in the middle of the day, usually in the middle of the teacher's availabilities. And then as lessons are being booked, whether it's by an admin or through self-booking, trials, makeups, etc., the system will automatically recommend slots that are right between the lessons or around existing lessons, so that we minimize gaps and we don't let people enroll 2 or 3 hours before or after existing lessons. Okay, so this is your pretty typical settings for your piano or your regular instrument private lesson. Next, we're going to look at cancellation. So we're actually going to come back to this in a minute, because you will see that we may want to, if you want to do private makeups, we also support group makeups and also no makeups at all, depending on how you want to address your makeup lessons. So we're going to get back to this in a few minutes after we have created a private makeup service, for example. Next is payment. So this is where you're going to set up what we call our payment plan options. So you're going to set up multiple ways to pay for this service. So for example, you can ignore the single visit credit only. It's always there by default. There is certain reasons for that. You will understand when you get more comfortable and more expert on the platform. But what we're gonna do here is we're gonna set up our weekly lesson, monthly membership, your typical music school payment plan. So we're gonna create a new payment plan here, and we have multiple options. Single visit, so that will be for trials, but we're not setting up a trial service here. Multiple visits, so that's, for example, if you want to sell prepaid packs of visits, 5, 10, 20 lessons, and you want people to buy them in prepaid packs and then use them and self books and sell and buy these lessons. But the typical one here is that you're going to want to choose is the membership with recurring visits and payments. So there's a lot of settings here, and it all depends how you charge for your private lessons here. So we're going to do the typical kind of like what most schools use for weekly lessons with monthly payments. And I'm going to go through all the settings one by one. So usually I recommend to put the instrument name in the name of the plan, and also the duration. It will make your billing a little bit more clear. And if students have multiple plans, multiple subscriptions, like multiple instruments, like if, for example, if a student does piano and violin, or if you do dance or other different type of classes, it will be a little bit clearer. Next is the description. So you can specify a description here. This will be primarily displayed when people do self-booking. It's not really relevant here in the context of private lessons, but it's useful for group classes, which we'll get to later part of the video. So, but it doesn't hurt to put a description so you know what this is. So this is your regular weekly lessons with monthly payment plan. And usually these descriptions will be visible by clients when they enroll. Again, not really relevant here for private lessons, but it is relevant for group classes. Okay, next we're going to set up the payment pricing. So here, let's say you charge, let's say $200 per month for 30 minutes weekly lessons. So this is a flat fee model. We're going to get back to that in a minute. So this is monthly, there's no other options. Next is if you do charge a one-time sign-up fee. So this is not a yearly subscription fee. There's other ways to process those. This is if you charge a one-time sign-up fee when your students enroll. So let's say, for example, we have a $55 one-time sign-up fee. And this is useful if you want to make sure you don't charge the one-time sign-up fee to existing clients. So let's say somebody signs up for piano and then they also sign up 6 months later for violin as well, and they're already a member at that point. You don't want to charge them for the sign-up fee. You can always discount those manually, by the way, so you can set it up this way and then discount them for whatever reason. You can apply your own sibling discounts or other discounts that you may want to apply manually through discounts. But here, this is the base setting, but at least you can have it waived automatically if somebody is already a member. Next, when is the first payment due? So usually, pretty much the option and the philosophy here is that you always have to pay for things before they actually booked. But as an admin, you have a way to override this. You can do what we call pay now, enroll now and pay later. But usually, I would recommend to make sure you get payment from your customers before you book. That prevents problems down the road. Okay, now this topic is a little bit more complicated. How do you charge? So this is how you do your payments. So for example, we have 4 different options today as of June 2021. Flat rate. Flat rate means you're going to charge the same amount every month. So here, $200 charged every month. And there's not going to be any proration for the first month. So either you charge for the whole month no matter what, or you apply your own proration manually through discounts. So some schools may apply discount based on the number of lessons, based on the day of the month, or based on whatever criteria you may have. A more common setting is to use flat rate, but with first payment prorated based on start date. So what this will do is it will be more along the line and the idea of a membership. So you're paying a monthly membership. It doesn't matter if you have 3, 4, or 5 lessons, depending on the month, depending on the holidays, which is what most schools usually use. But the first month usually makes sense to prorate it. If you start in the middle of the month, let's say on the 15th, you're going to get 50% off. If you start a little bit later, a little bit earlier, it's going to be based on the number of days that you are a member on the first month. So it's not going to be calculated based on the number of lessons, but based on the day of the month that you sign up as a member. And the third one is exactly the same, except there's one little caveat, which is something most schools usually use, is basically same thing, flat rate monthly. The first payment is prorated per day based on the date of the first lesson. But if your first lesson is during the first week of the month, you're still going to pay for the whole month. It makes a lot of sense. If your lesson starts on July 6th, for example, you're still going to pay for the whole month. You're getting your 4 or 5 lessons anyway, so it makes sense to charge you for the whole month. So that's kind of an exception of the previous setting. And finally, the last one is variable monthly rate based on number of visits. So in this model here, some schools charge based on the number of actual lessons you have on the calendar. So the way this works is basically you would set up variable monthly rate, and then here it's no longer a monthly rate, it's a per lesson rate. So we're gonna say, let's say $45. And then the system will automatically calculate based on the lessons you have coming up in the calendar, how much you owe for that particular month, right? So for example, let's say when your July invoice is generated by the system, so usually it happens when you pay the June invoice, the next invoice is automatically generated. Based on what's on the calendar at that time, the system will say, okay, you have 4 lessons in July, so you're gonna pay 4 times $45, or let's say 5 times $45 if you happen to have 5 lessons that month. Or if there is a holiday and you canceled, your staff canceled, we'll talk about what staff cancel mean later. If your staff canceled all the lessons on July 4th, 5th, and 6th, and the student happens to only have 3 lessons that month, then it will be only 3 times 45. So I'm going to set up here monthly $200 flat rate with proration based on the first day, and no proration if your lesson is on the first week of the month. Next is late fees. So this is a typical setting. The system will automatically, if you enable this, will automatically apply late fees to your subscribers. So for example, if the due date is always going to be on the first of the month, but if on the 10th or after the 10th they haven't paid yet, they will be automatically be charged. $25 will be automatically added to the invoice. Next is, can it be discounted? So this is something that, for example, if you really don't want your staff to discount, to apply any discount when they sell that service, for whatever reason, you can turn this off. But usually you want this on. It's at your discretion, obviously. People cannot give themselves discounts, obviously. So it's only when your admins apply discounts, or yourself as a manager or an owner apply discounts when you're booking students. Subscriptions start on the date of the first visit or in the beginning of the month. This does make a big difference. I would recommend the second option here. Now, another setting here that's interesting is when do you want autopay to be processed? So some schools like to have autopay being processed a few days before the actual due date. So let's say the due date is July 1st. You can say that 3 days before July 1st, the system will start processing payments for the July 1st invoices. So obviously, if you do this, make sure your customers are aware that autopay is processed a few days or n days before the actual due date. And you can do the opposite. You can say the due date is July 1st, but we start processing it starting 4 days after July 1st, right? What a lot of schools do is just leave it on the due date or have it kick in a little bit before, 2 or 3 days before. And this setting, and like other settings, can be updated on an individual basis. So you can update it for certain students. So for example, let's say if you have a policy that you let certain students, maybe let's say a low-income family, take lessons and you want to give them a break and let them pay a little bit later, you can increase the late fee threshold here to 20 days and let them and have the autopay kick in a few days after the due date, for example. So I'm going to leave it 0 here. I'm not going to actually turn it on. Next is a subscription hold. So people cannot put their own subscription on hold. And by the way, they cannot end their own subscription. That has to go through you because usually it's a time where you want to talk to them. However, you can allow students to go on hold for a period of time. And that's a subscription hold. So for example, during the summer, do you let them put their lessons on hold and their payment on hold for 1 or 2 months, for example, or during the winter holiday, or not at all? It's completely up to you. You can allow what we call subscription holds. And then as an admin, you can go into a subscription, put it on hold for a period of time, and then the system will automatically calculate as much as possible if certain invoices need to be prorated. And also the lessons will be obviously canceled during the hold period. And usually what you can also do, for example, is manually charge for the returning month. So let's say you let somebody go on hold in July, you put their subscription on hold for the month of July 1st or July 30th or 31st, and you have them prepay for August so that you basically get them committed for August if you want to hold their spots. And basically their subscription will keep going. Their July lessons will be canceled and will be opened up for other makeup or other subbing or other students during that period. But on August 1st and on, the student is back on the calendar, the lessons are reserved, the slot is reserved, and the invoice continues and the subscription continues. Next, you can set up multiple. Obviously, here we're creating one plan, but you can create multiple plans. And here, for example, you could decide that maybe home lessons or online lessons or studio lessons are different pricing. Or even if you have multiple studios, you can set up what we call per location pricing. So you would create multiple payment plans under the same service and assign different locations for each. So here, we're not going to put any location specific settings, but you could create multiple plans and assign different locations for each of the plans. And then if you book an online lesson, you may have a certain price and a certain policy. If you're booking a home lesson, it might be a little bit more expensive because the teacher is driving there. If you're doing an in-studio lesson, it could be more or less expensive based on your policy. How many visits are allowed per period? So this is 1 visit weekly. You can also actually do also bi-weekly. So you can create a weekly lesson plan at a certain price and a bi-weekly lesson plan with a lower price, obviously, because you're only getting lessons every other week. Now, you can turn on this feature here where if you have an active subscription, it will make the client, the subscriber, the student, a lifetime member. That means they're going to be labeled as a member forever, right? So maybe if you never want to charge them a sign-up fee again, for example, you can have this setting as a lifetime member. Usually, people choose the regular membership, which is you're only a member as long as you have active subscriptions, right? So as soon as your subscription is active, you the client will be labeled as a member, and then once your last active subscription is ended, you're automatically labeled as member lost. If this is some kind of side subscription or other service that you're providing that there's no membership concept in your school for that service, you can just turn this off, which means that having a subscription or not will not affect the member status of your clients, of your students. And so we're going to turn it on here. And next is terms and conditions. So if we talked about setting the terms and conditions on the service earlier, this is what allows you to make sure that when students are enrolled into this into this subscription with this particular plan, that they have to review and accept terms and conditions. And the way it works is they're being prompted by email every 5 days to review and accept the terms and conditions until they actually accepted the terms and conditions. Note that you can also manually accept the terms and conditions for them. So if you're migrating from another tool, or if you have a client that they already signed some kind of paper waiver or studio policy and they say, okay, I'm good with it, you can just mark them as accepted so they don't have to do it themselves. Okay, so this is our typical monthly membership, weekly lesson, piano, private lesson payment plan. So we're going to go ahead and click update to save this. Don't forget to save or it won't be actually persisted. You can also create other plans. So you can create another plan for online lessons that may be a little bit cheaper, a little bit more expensive. You can set up multiple plans. And as an admin, when you're booking your clients, you can pick which plan you want. Of course, the system will only show you applicable plans, right? So here, we're only setting up recurring lessons weekly with monthly payment. Now, let's say you want to sell individual lessons. Some schools, for example, allow students to buy individual lessons, maybe only if they're members already. For example, if they want to buy extra lessons to prepare for a recital or an exam or competition, you can create another payment plan, and we're going to call it multiple visit, and it's going to be a prepaid 5-pack or 5 lesson, let's say. And basically, you can say a prepaid 5 lessons pack. And it's going to be 5 visits, let's say $250. You allow discounts. And here you go. So that's another option that you offer. People can buy a pack of 5 lessons. It's up to you to decide who you sell it to. Maybe you only sell it to members. And then when they have that pack, they can just use these credits and actually self-book this particular service, and they will be taken to the self-booking interface, and they will be able to basically use their lesson credits and book individual lessons on the calendar. Okay, so that's your typical setup. Next are your email templates. So I'm going to go through them only once for my piano private lesson here. So confirmation email is every time you book a client, whether you book them a one-time lesson, a trial lesson, a makeup lesson, or a regular weekly lesson, they're going to receive a confirmation email. You want to make this nice and welcoming. Thank you for choosing our school. We're delighted to have you as a student. Your lesson is confirmed. If you have any questions, please contact us, etc., etc. But you can also add more details like what should you expect, what should you bring, where can you find our school policy, things like that. You can put links. So for example, you can have a policy here, and you can actually select this and put a link here. So you would put https etc.com, and that will be your studio policy, right? So that you can make this, you can format it. You can also put links as well. Reminder email template. So before every appointment, whether it's a group class, a private lesson, a trial or makeup, or your regular weekly lesson, students will receive, and their account managers, by the way. So sometimes students don't have emails themselves. The email will be on the parents or the caretaker or the godmother or the nanny or whoever is paying for the lessons or involved in that account, or essentially set as an account manager for that student. You will be able to, they will receive a reminder email, and they can of course opt out of it. So let's say dad is on the account, but dad doesn't care when lessons are canceled, or and doesn't want to be reminded of the lessons. You can just you can opt out of it, but this is going to be sent before every appointment. For example, we set it to 28 hours earlier in the general settings. It could be 24, it could be whatever you want. Next is the cancellation email template. So cancellation email template is the email template that they will receive if you happen to cancel a lesson, right? So if you cancel a lesson because they requested it, or because your staff is sick, or your teacher is away on vacation, that's what they're going to receive. You can actually leave this blank, because you will see that when you actually cancel a lesson, or one lesson, or multiple lessons in one click, like as a batch cancellation, you have the ability to set a custom message. So usually you're going to tell them, hi, your teacher is sick today, but we've arranged a sub for you, or your lesson is canceled, you're getting a credit, or you're getting a refund, or XYZ, depending on your policy. and you will write that message at that time. So usually this is left empty, but you can also add other things. You can also have a template that's always there that says, hey, did you know you can book makeup lessons from our portal, and just click below to access your account, and you can use your credits and blah, 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 blah. So you can set whatever you want here. Automated conversion email template. So this is for trial lessons, right? We're not going to set this up here for the regular piano private lesson. This is a mechanism where we can automate the conversion. So let's say if you just took a piano trial lesson, we're going to set up the trial lesson in a minute. If you do a piano trial lesson, and usually you're going to convert to a regular weekly piano lesson, 30 or 45 minutes or 60 minutes maybe. And this is the template that we're going to send you after your trial lesson if you turn on the feature, which we will see in a minute. And this could be something like, thank you for attending your piano trial lesson. I hope you enjoyed it, or we hope you enjoyed it. If you're receiving this email, this means that your teacher is available next week at the same time in the same location. And you can click here to review the terms and conditions and enroll into weekly lessons. So this is kind of a automated conversion that you would enable for trial lessons. So I'm not going to turn it on here because we're not setting up the trial lesson yet. But just know how it works, and that's where it is. Okay, now we're pretty much done with our basic piano regular lesson service. So we're gonna go here, and now let's create a couple more. And what I'm gonna do now is I'm gonna show you how to create the trial version of this and the makeup version of this. Now you might be wondering, why do I need to set up different service for private lessons and private trial lessons or private makeup lesson? That's because they may have different photos, different colors, different settings, different terms and conditions, different pricing. The name is different because you want your teachers to know, oh, this is a trial, or oh, this is a makeup, or oh, this is a regular lesson, and maybe I'm subbing for another teacher, or maybe this is my regular student. So your teachers want to know this, your admins want to know this when they look at the calendar. So usually we set up different services for these different type of services and a different type of lessons. So you can just basically set up your piano private lesson the way you like it, and then you can just duplicate it, right? So we're going to duplicate once, and now we're going to create the trial version of this service. So we're just going to duplicate and update, and we're pretty much going to keep most of the service. Actually, most of the settings doesn't change that much, but we're going to change the name. Obviously, we're going to remove copy here, and we're going to put private trial lesson. Some call it preview, intro, most call it trial, it's up to you. So now that this is a trial lesson, and this is a lot of the value of Opus One IO is the ability to self-book trial lessons, right? So you want to put a lot of details there, because this is what your clients will see when they book when they self-book their trial lessons. And they might come from an ad, they might come from your website, they might come from your newsletter, they might be referred by your friend, or however they came to your self-booking interface on your Opus One IO. You want to put a lot of details. So you're going to put a very nice photo. You're also going to put additional photos, right? So you want to put as much detail as you can to make sure that the visitor is comfortable booking a lesson. So you're going to put a short description that explains what's the benefit of piano lessons in a few sentences, not too long. This is a short description. It's going to be displayed in the main page when they pick which trial lesson they want to book from. And then there's going to be a longer description. So this could be a lot longer. So you want to put something like why choose our school, right? You can talk a little bit about our policy or our philosophy, So you want to put a lot of details here in your long description, and it could be quite long. You can put like a whole page of information and links and bullet points, and you want to put a lot of details here about your piano lesson specifically, but also about your school and about your service in general. If you want to have an idea of how it looks like, you can look at our reference school. So I'm gonna open another tab here and go to the self-booking interface or trial lessons for Opus One Music Studio in Mountain View, Palo Alto. So as you can see, we have the different tags that we can filter from. And this is the short description that shows up here. And if I click here, you can see multiple photos. So that's where you want to put a lot of different photos of your facilities, of your instrument, of your beautiful teachers and students that are happy taking lessons. You have the length of the lesson. You have the price. We'll get to that in a minute. You can have age restrictions, so you can set up, when you allow people to enroll for private lessons. And of course, this is the long description. So you don't have to put about, right? This will automatically be set by the system, but you're going to have here the ability to give a lot of details about your services, right? And your school, right? And people will read this before they actually go ahead and pick a teacher and location and do a trial self-booking. So that's your long description. Next is your terms and conditions. So same thing, your terms and conditions will be visible at the last step before they actually pay, when they enter the credit card payments. So this doesn't have to be a very long studio policy, because here they're only signing up for a trial lesson, right? So it can be a shorter terms and condition, right? So it could be only a few bullets, and maybe you focus on cancellation, right? So you can say, you have 24 hours to cancel your trial if you don't want to lose it, and things like that. So I would recommend here to keep the terms and conditions for trial lessons short and sweet and clear, and have as little friction as possible when people book a trial lesson. Next are the tags. So you can put trial, for example, so they're easier to filter. You can put other tags as well. And pretty much everything else here is going to be the same as what we had for your regular piano, private lesson, your age restriction if you set any. And now these actually settings do matter for trial lessons, right? So the first one is service conversion. So what we call a service conversion here, it's specifically for trial lessons. So if you come in, you take a piano trial lesson, you're going to convert to becoming a member, and that's going to be by taking weekly private piano lessons. If you took 30 minutes lessons, you may convert to 30 minutes private weekly lessons, or maybe 45 minutes or 60 minutes. Right now we have only created the piano 30 minutes service. So this will be the service you want to convert to, right? So usually after a piano trial lesson, you're going to convert to a piano private lessons. That's your weekly lesson. Once we create the 45 and 60 minutes piano private lesson, you may want to put those as well here, because you may do a 30 minutes trial, and maybe you're 12 years old and you need to take 60 minutes lessons. So you may actually convert from 30 minutes trial to 60-minute lessons, right? So you want to have all your matching services here that would convert after this particular piano trial service, right? Now, this is used for two things. This is used for tracking and reporting. So there is an interface where you can get trial lesson conversions, right? So this is how we can tell what service converts to what other service, right? And this is great to be able to have the ability to look at all your trials in the last 30 days and see if they converted or not. The other thing is, this is also used for automated service conversion. So if you turn this on, your clients will automatically, as soon as they had their trial lesson, so usually when you take attendance for that lesson, so you know they were there, you can automatically have an email sent to them by Opus One.io that will tell them, hey, you just had a piano trial lesson. We hope you enjoyed it. And if you remember, we talked about in your templates, you have the automated conversion email template that you can customize. And they will receive that email that says, we hope you enjoyed your piano trial lesson. If you're receiving this, that means this spot is available and you can enroll in weekly lessons. And this is basically how we can send that email. So you would turn this on if you want that email to be automatically sent, and the system will pick one of the matching conversion services. So usually the same duration. So if you do 30 minutes, it will offer you to sign up for the 30-minute lesson. We'll talk about trial conversion a little bit later. There's other way to convert a trial from a trial to a member. Next is the client lifecycle status. So this is quite useful. You can set it up the way we usually recommend it is, if you just signed up for a trial, we're going to automatically label you as prospect trial. And after you had your trial, which is usually when we take attendance, we automatically going to label you as prospect follow-up. So this will label the client, and in the client interface, we're going to make it easier for you and your staff to filter and say, okay, show me all the clients that just had a trial that I need to follow up and either convert or mark them as lost. or those who are about to have a trial because maybe I need to call them and make sure they have their piano ready and or the violin ready, and make sure that they hear from us after they self-booked online, right? So this is a good way to automatically label clients so you can contact them and follow up with them efficiently when they book their trial and then they had the trial. Okay, so I'm going to update this. So this is our settings for trials. The calendar settings are going to be pretty much the same. You can actually, some people use a bright popping red or pink for trials, so you make sure they pop in your calendar so you don't miss them. 30 minutes reminder, same settings. This is important for self-booking. How many minutes apart will your slot be? So every 15 minutes in this case. Now, this is where enrollment window matters, right? So usually, depending on your policy and what agreement you have with your teachers, you may want to make sure people don't book trials with less than 24-hour notice, so your teachers can prepare. Same thing, you also don't want people to maybe book a trial too far ahead of time. So maybe you do 15 days or 30 days, it's up to you, but it makes no sense to let somebody enroll in a trial like 3 months from now. They can come back later if they're not ready, but you don't want them to hog a spot that will probably will be gone by then anyway on a weekly basis. So you don't want to kind of create conflicts in your schedule later on. And now you do want to enforce the schedule optimization to minimize gaps on your trial services so that when people book, they're only being shown certain availabilities that are strategic between lessons or around existing lessons. So that's your typical trial settings. Now, let's go to payment. So payment is pretty simple because we duplicated the regular piano private lesson. We have the same options here, but these options don't make sense here. We're going to actually remove them, and we're going to create a payment plan, single visit. We're going to call it single visit trial. You can, let's do this again, single visit trial. And I'm going to put the same thing as description. And this is a single visit, so only one, no choice here. And let's say some schools, you can put 0 here. Some schools do free trials. We usually don't really recommend it. It depends on your policy. You can, by the way, put a price on it and do a promotion. We have a promotion campaign feature as well that we'll probably address in another video. And here you're going to put a price. So it could be your per lesson pricing for trials. It could be a discounted price. So let's put $25. It's good usually to put a price on trials. Make sure people put their credit card in the system and commit to the lesson, that they're serious about it. And but maybe give them a little discount to give them a little incentive to book a trial lesson. And if your trial is booked through an admin, you can maybe allow your staff to discount it. You can also have different pricing. So again, like any other plan, if you have multiple locations, you can put different pricing per location. So maybe an online trial is different or cheaper or whatever. A home trial can be more expensive, etc., etc. So you can specify different pricing per location. Okay, so this is a typical service for trial. Very important. If you want to, you can have a lot of different payment plans on each service, right? If you want to enable this service for self-booking, and under that particular plan, you need to enable the plan that you want for self-booking. So here we're going to disable this one, which is a default one that is there for specific reasons, but we don't have time to or need to really explain it at this point. But I'm going to enable this one because this is the single visit trial payment plan option that we want people to automatically use when they do self-booking for trial lessons. Okay, so make sure your trial payment plan is enabled for self-booking when you set up your trial lesson. And we're updating here. So this is your payment plan. Email templates are the same for, they can be the same template and you can batch update them so that they're pretty much the same. But keep in mind the confirmation email for a trial is going to be the first email they receive from you after booking or after self-booking a trial online. So, you can put a little bit of extra touch, personal touch, and thank them for choosing your music school, etc., etc. Okay, we're not gonna look at cancellation just yet. We're gonna talk about cancellation policy, rescheduling in a second. And before that, we're gonna create another service. So we're gonna go back to our service, and now we're gonna create a third type of service for makeups. So this is what I'm gonna address at this part of the video is how to do private makeups. Some schools do private makeups, some do no makeups at all, some do group makeups. We support all of the above. I'm going to show you first how to do private makeups, and in the later part of the video, we will do group makeups. So for private makeups, you want to create another private appointment service for makeup specifically. And the reason why we do a different service than the regular piano private lesson is because there is different reasons. First of all, they may have different cancellation policy. So what does that mean? That means if you cancel a piano private lesson, your regular lesson, you're going to get a credit. And with that credit, you can book a piano makeup lesson, but it's technically a different service. And for example, if you cancel the makeup lesson, maybe you lose that lesson. You cannot just keep canceling and rescheduling it over and over again. So our recommendation, because Opus One IO allows you to do self-cancellation and booking of makeups, you can offer a lot of flexibility that your customers will love, but you still want to have some limitations so that people don't go crazy and cancel dozens of lessons at once. So for different reasons, we're going to set up a different service for makeup lessons, and the makeup lesson will have a different name and a different service and a different terms and conditions, different cancellation policy, and as I said, different names. So your teachers will know that this is a makeup lesson, right? And not a regular lesson. And some students will book makeups with other teachers than their regular teacher because maybe their regular teacher is not available, right? So you want your teachers to know that this is a makeup. And finally, the other thing to take into account is that your makeup lesson, your teachers may have different availabilities, right? So you can actually set when your teachers are available for which service, and you can set, for example, that maybe you only want certain teachers to do makeups. And maybe on certain days. So we'll look at it in a few minutes, how to set up teachers' availabilities. And in this context, you may want to have different services so you can set who is available for trials, who is available for makeups, who is available for regular lessons. And sometimes, for example, you may have teachers who are already full, so you don't want them to take new trials. So you would remove the trial availability for them, or at least on certain days or for a period of time. And then maybe add them back later if they lost some students and you want them to be able to take trial lessons. And same thing for makeups. Maybe you have teachers that are really, really full, don't have time for makeups, no makeups for them, and you only do makeups with other teachers. So you have the ability to specify that. And in order to do that, you need to be able to have different services and differentiate those services. So we're going to duplicate our regular piano private lesson to make a makeup version of that. So duplicate, very easy, update. And we're going to update the name. Pretty much everything will be the same. So we're going to say piano private makeup lesson, 30 minutes, same photo. You can put a short and long description. It will be visible to customers when they self-book. You can put other photos. You can put terms and conditions specific to cancellation, right? You can say, hey, if you're booking a makeup now, if you cancel that makeup, maybe you lose it, right? So you can put some details in the terms and conditions. Tags, we're gonna keep the same tags, but we're gonna add makeup so it's easy to filter. Pretty much everything else is the same. No conversion, we're not converting makeups. There's no need to alter the student's status here. And we're gonna update this. Pretty much everything is good here. That's our makeup. Now let's look payment. Sorry, let's update the payment first. So the way we're going to book makeups is actually we're not going to buy makeups, right? You can buy extra lessons, that makes sense, but it doesn't make sense to buy makeups. Makeups are usually because you got credits from another lesson you cancel. So we're going to update this. This was a copy of the previous service. And we're going to remove these payment plans here that are not really relevant. And we're going to create a new one. We're going to create a single visit. Actually, sorry, no, we're not going to create anything because the default one is actually exactly what we want here. So this is a default payment plan for booking makeups, for using credits. And it has a specific setting that's basically only usable with credits. There's no dollar amount on this plan. It's only basically the idea is that you cannot spend money to buy a makeup. You can only book a makeup if you have makeup credits, essentially. And of course, you want to make sure it is enabled for self-booking or people will not be able to book makeups. So that's a common mistake. If you had created other plans and disabled the self-booking for this one, you want to make sure it's enabled or you won't be able to book makeups. Update. Okay, so now we set up the payment plan. Same thing, each service have their own templates for confirmation email, reminder email, cancellation email. Automated conversion is irrelevant here. You're not going to convert makeups, right? That's only for trials. And cancellation. So now let's talk about cancellation. So let's start with Now we have our 3 services. We have our private regular lesson, private makeup, private trial. We will, by the way, create the 45 and 60 minutes after. I just want to show you how to create your base template, your base services for regular lessons, makeup, and trial. And then once you have them ready and set up the way you like, then you can duplicate easily for 45 and 60 minutes, and then you can duplicate each of them for all your different instruments. Okay, so now let's look at what happens when you cancel a piano private lesson. I'm going to click update here and go into cancellation. So each service have their own cancellation policy. So first, we're going to look at the first tab here, which is the cancellation policy. The first question is, how do we determine what is a late cancellation versus a not late cancellation? So you can disable that altogether if you don't want to do late or not late, and maybe no makeups at all. Some schools do that. But if you want to say, for example, a typical policy is, if you cancel with more than 24-hour notice, we're going to give you a makeup because you're opening up the time for another student to use their makeup. And here is a credit. But if you're canceling with less than 24-hour notice, then you don't get a makeup, right? Maybe you get a video lesson, or maybe you get nothing. It's up to your policy. Now the next thing is very important, is what do you want to display to customers when they do cancel a lesson? So when they go to their portal, when they log into their account and they click on the cancel button because they want to cancel a specific lesson, you want to display to them your cancellation policy spelled out as clear as possible, right? So this is, you don't want to put please contact us. You want to explain to them, here is our cancellation policy. So if you're canceling with more than 24 hours, you get a credit. I'm of course not really spelling it out here, but you want to explain it clearly. Maybe less than 24-hour notice, you no credit. You lose the lesson, etc., etc. So you want to here just spell it out in English, in your own words, how you usually explain it to your customer. What is your cancellation policy? Okay, next, this is where we're going to set up the different cancellation policies, right? So the first one is visit cancellation. Then we have a late visit cancellation, and have what we call staff cancellation. So the first two are cancellations that are initiated by the client. So the client, your student, your parent, your client wants to cancel a lesson, right? Whether they do it through your admin, through an email or SMS or chat or whatever, or whether they do it on their own on the portal. The system needs to know what you want to happen in that case. So if we're doing a regular cancellation, we're going to click here, and by default, it's forfeited. That means I cancel it, I get nothing, right? But in this case, if it's not late, right? So maybe we want to give them a service credit. So this is a lesson credit, and it's going to have a default label. If it's self-booked, it's going to be labeled automatically as makeup, or you can call it whatever you want here. And this is where you may want to, you have different options, right? And every school is different in how you deal with makeups. Usually here, if you cancel a piano private lesson, you want to give them a credit, not for the same service, but for the makeup service. Why? Because then they will be able to book a makeup lesson. The teacher will know that it's a makeup lesson, and maybe you can set a different cancellation policy for the makeup service, okay? Next, you're going to have certain limitations, right? So you have 3 types of limitations you can mix and match. The first one is, do you want to cap the number of credits a specific client can have at once per subscription, right? So it's per subscription because if the student does piano and violin, you may want him to have some makeup for violin and some makeup for piano. Now, a typical setting is maybe 2 credits active at a time, or 3, depending on your policy. So basically what this will do is that if I try to cancel more than 2 lessons and I get more than 2 credits that I haven't used yet, 2 active credits, I won't be able to get additional credits until I actually use these, right? So, and if the clients try to cancel the lesson will be forfeited. There won't be any credits issued if I already have 2 credits on that particular subscription. You can also put a validity period. So you can say, I'm going to give you credits, but they're going to be valid for 30 days or 60 days or 90 days, whatever you want, or valid for as long as you are a member, for example. And then you can also set a limit in time. So you can say, okay, I'm going to let you have up to 2 active credits at a time, but I'm not going to let you do more than 3 cancellation every 90 days, right? So pretty much every quarter, every 3 months, you're not going to be able to cancel more than 3 lessons, right? So this is up to you. You can set up the cancellation policy you're comfortable with. So I'm going to use these settings for the sake of this demo here. So this is the regular cancellation. So that means with more than 24-hour notice. Okay, now the late cancellation, usually for late cancellation, they're going to lose a lesson, right? Or you can give them maybe a group makeup, right? So you can also say, okay, I'm going to give you late cancellation makeup, but it's going to be a group makeup. So for that, you would have to create a group service, a session-based service. We're going to look at that in a little bit later in this video. And you can create a group makeup session type service, and you can schedule group makeups. And then maybe that's what you offer them when they do late cancellation. Or maybe you give them nothing. It's really up to you. So let's say here you get nothing for late cancellation. Now, if the cancellation is a staff cancellation, so staff cancellation means the business canceled the lessons, right? Not the client. Why? Because maybe it's a holiday and you want to give them a credit for it, or maybe because it is a teacher absence, teacher did not show up, or teacher was sick, teacher is on vacation. So usually you're going to give them a credit. So if you say, you can say the visit is forfeited and you can give them a $1 credit on their next invoice manually, or you can give them a service credit and say, okay, I'm going to give you a teacher absence credit. And it's going to be it's going to be also a makeup, right? Because we want to know that it's a makeup when you book it. And maybe we're going to give you 30 days to use it, right? So it's up to you. You don't have to put those limitations. As you notice here, it doesn't really make sense to cap those, because if you cancel lessons because your teachers are sick, you don't want to limit the makeups you give students, because it's not really their fault. It's the business responsibility here. Okay, so this is your typical private lesson setup with private makeups, where you create a regular lesson service and a makeup version of that service with different cancellation policy. Now, if we look at the makeup service, it has its own cancellation policy, right? So you can set a different cancellation policy. You can write it out separately. You can say, if you cancel this one, you lose it, right? Or maybe you do give them a credit. It's up to you. Maybe you have a different setting as to what constitutes a late cancellation, right? It's up to you. Now, usually when you cancel a makeup, most schools will just, forfeit it, right? If you already cancel, if it's already a makeup, that means you canceled the previous lesson before, you booked the makeup, and then, if you cancel it again, you lose it, right? Now, if it's canceled because a teacher did not show up, or because a teacher is going to be away, then you actually may want to give them a teacher absence credit, right? So same thing, you're going to give them same service, another makeup, with or without expiry, up to you. So again, this is the typical setting for private lesson, private makeup. Okay. Now, if we look at, we're almost done with the base services. Now we're going to look at the trial lesson. So trial lesson is a little bit particular, because if they cancel a trial, so same thing, you want to set up what is your cancellation policy for trial lessons, right? Now, if they cancel a trial and it's not a late cancellation, you definitely probably want them to do another makeup trial. Maybe you label it makeup trial, and there's no subscription attached to trial lessons, so there's no point to set this up. This will mean nothing. There's no limits because you only have one trial that you're canceling, and it's not attached to a weekly, monthly payment subscription. But you can say, okay, if you do cancel your trial, I'm going to give you 30 days to use it. It's up to you. Now, for trials, you want to issue the same service. You don't want to issue a makeup service, because it's not really a makeup. It's a makeup of a trial. It's still a trial, right? So you want to keep trial. You don't want to specify another service here. So I'm going to remove the expiry here, because I want people to keep their trial makeup here. I'm going to update this. Now, for late cancellation, it's up to you whether you give them another trial or not. Now, of course, if your teacher canceled, you want to give them a credit, most likely. So it's a teacher absence trial. And same thing, you're going to give them a trial. And boom. So this is your typical setup for private makeups. Now, once you have those, you can easily duplicate this for other instruments and other duration. So for another duration, you would just go, I'm just going to do it for this one. You can duplicate. And this is my piano private lesson. So I'm going to update it. I'm going to make the 45 minutes version. It's going to be pretty much the same settings, pretty much everywhere, except where the duration is mentioned. So I'm going to replace this by 45. And I'm going to update this. And then, of course, don't forget the calendar, because this is no longer 30 minutes, it's a 45 minutes, right? So 45 minutes. If you have your pricing will probably be different for 45 minutes. So we're going to go and update the payment plan. So update here. And this is my 45 minutes. So let's say it's $300 instead of $200. And I'm going to make sure it says piano 45 instead of 30. Pretty much everything else is the same. And same thing for my 5 lesson pack. Let's say it's going to be a little bit more expensive. Let's say $375. Whatever your pricing is, update. Well, all right. Okay. So here we have private piano 30 minutes, piano private 45 minutes. And then, of course, you need to have the matching private lesson. We're going to duplicate this one as well. Update it. Update the duration as well. 45 minutes. Okay, I don't want this to be H3. 45 minutes. And now for cancellation, we're going to get to that in a minute. Payment, no differences. And now you have to make sure you don't forget that if you're canceling a piano private 45 minutes, you need to get a piano makeup 45, not 30 minutes, right? So you're going to go and set up the piano makeup 45 here and piano makeup 45 there. Here you go. All right, so that gives you an overview of our private makeups. Now let's say you want to do group makeups. All right, so we're going to create another service here. We're going to create a session service. So that's for your group classes. So we're going to create a session and we're going to call it group makeup. There we go. And let's pick a photo. Let's pick the same photo for simplicity. And we're going to put a description. Oops. Group makeup class. Same thing. So let's put a group class tag here, maybe a makeup as well. And let's say your group makeups are 30 minutes each or 45 minutes, and they're group classes. So let's put a duration just for information. We're going to put 45 minutes here. No setup, no teardown, no edge restrictions. We're going to actually just go ahead and create this service, and then we're going to update it, right? So as you can notice, this is a session service, so it does have a sessions button here. We're going to go back and update it. Let's go back to the settings here. So we have how many clients. So this is where you set up how many clients can attend your group makeup. So let's say you have 5, or let's say 8. You can put age restrictions if you want. You want to make this visible. This is an example where for group makeup, it really only makes sense to make it visible to clients, because your visitors, people who are not your clients, are not interested in your makeup. They're not your customers already. And let's say you can enable online Zoom lesson as well for the group makeups. Update this. You're going to pick your calendar color, the duration, 45 minutes. When do you want people to be reminded when they enroll for that group makeup? If they're set up and tear down. And usually your group makeups are going to be ongoing classes. You don't really need them. It's not a type of group class where people have to start in the beginning of the class and maybe it's a 12-week program or 36-week program. Your group class are going to be scheduled in multiple sessions and they're going to be ongoing. So we don't have a enrollment window based on the day of based on the number of days after the start of the session, but we're going to have a rolling enrollment window. So maybe you only let people enroll, maybe even same day, doesn't matter. It's a group, it's already scheduled, but maybe you don't let people enroll more than more than 45 days ahead of time in group makeups. So we're going to put 45 days, update. Payment. Okay, so for payment, it's going to be actually the single visit credits, just like for private lesson. We're going to be using a credit that was issued to us for group makeup from another service to enroll into this group makeup class. Okay, email templates are the same as private appointments. Now we're going to go to sessions. So now we're going to schedule sessions, right? So we're going to schedule when our group makeups are happening and who are the teachers and when. So I'm going to go into session. I'm going to create a new session and I'm going to call it group makeup. And we'll say, let's say maybe this is the Friday, 3 p.m. Just the naming is just a convention. You can use what you want. And they say this is happening at the Palo Alto studio. You can assign a Zoom ID if you want it. You don't have to. So here's our group makeup. So now we have an ongoing group makeup. There's no start date, there's no end date. We haven't actually scheduled any date yet. Let's say we're going to schedule another one just for the sake of the demo group makeup. And we're going to do the Tuesday, 6 p.m. All right, so you can create as many sessions as you need. And then we're going to schedule those sessions. So we're going to go into the session. And we're opening up the session editor here, and we're going to see the calendar. Right now there's nothing. And we're going to say, okay, maybe we're starting in July, and this is what's supposed to be the Tuesday, 6 p.m. So we're going to maybe start on July 6th. Click on Tuesday and schedule session date. And we're going to say, okay, this is the group makeup, Tuesday, 6 p.m. Palo Alto, you're going to assign your room, whatever you want, room 1. We're going to make it recurring, and it's going to be every Tuesday at 6 p.m. Just like we said, 6 p.m. It lasts 45 minutes, so it ends at 6:45. It never ends. It's going to be an ongoing session. And then you don't have to, you can assign the staff here. We haven't created any teachers yet, but you can assign the staff either now or later if you already have staff. And you can even have maybe for a few months, it's going to be teacher X doing that group makeup, and maybe later on it's going to be teacher Y. And you can just update staff and assign multiple staff on your group makeups sessions. Okay, so now we have an ongoing group makeup Tuesday 6 p.m. every Tuesday 6 p.m. forever. So it's just going to keep recurring. And then maybe let's go back to this one, and let's if you want to, you can reschedule it, you can move it around, you can drag and drop it, you can make changes. But here what we're just going to do is we're going to, right now we don't have any staff, so I'm not gonna add myself here, but you can change the room, you can change the time, you can remove it, you can enroll clients, we'll do that later, and assign teachers from here as well. Okay, so now let's go back to our sessions. Now we have the Tuesday 6 p.m. Let's do the Friday 3 p.m. as well while we're at it. So starting in July, Friday, let's start after the July 4th weekend, let's say. We're gonna click here, schedule session date. By the way, you can also go into the week view, and we're looking at Friday, July 9, and you can just drag and drop from here. So you can say this is a Friday 3 p.m. Actually, I didn't select it correctly. Here we go, 3 p.m. Doesn't matter when it ends, because it's going to end at 3:45 because it's a 45-minute lesson. Here we go, recurring, room 3, let's say, and submit. Boom, we have now our Friday 3 p.m. Session for group makeup that is scheduled. Okay, so now that we have the service, we need to link the two. So for example, if you want that when somebody cancels a private 30 minutes lesson, so let's go back to the cancellation policy, and let's say we do that example where you give a private makeup if they cancel with 24-hour notice, or you give a group makeup if they cancel with a late cancellation. Here we go, you would say, okay, issue service credits, and this is where you're going to say service credit group makeup. Right. So what that means is that when they cancel a single private lesson, they will get a credit for the group makeup, and then they will be able to self-enroll into an available group makeup session. Okay, so I'm not going to set this up, but just wanted to show you how to do it. So that's kind of our setup for private lessons and group makeup. Now, next, we're going to look at group classes. So we just did the group makeup, which is pretty much very similar to any other group class. So let's create another one. I'm going to duplicate this one, group makeup, and we're going to create maybe my first piano adventure group class. So I'm going to update this one. Maybe select a different photo so it's more differentiated. I don't know if we have a nice photo here, but yeah, maybe let's pick this one, or maybe just let's go to this one. And we're going to call it my first piano adventure. So that's the service. Whoops. So same thing. People are going to self-enroll into these group classes, right? So you want to put a nice description, very detailed, in the short description and the long description here. I'm going to just write it here. And terms and conditions, same thing. Tags. How many clients per class? Maybe this is a smaller class than your group makeups, 5 clients maybe. Maybe there is an age restriction, so maybe this is usually group classes are for beginner students and you have age restrictions, so maybe it's a class you can only enroll when you're 4 to to 8, right? So here we go. That's how you set age restrictions. We're going to make it visible by visitors because we want people to be able to self-enroll into this class, and we're going to update it. Done. Now, payment. So there's a lot of different ways to pay for group classes, right? So previously we had set up the group makeup class where you're only using credits, but here we're going to create a few different options for you to charge for your group classes. So let's do a first one, which is going to be the full session payment. So this is typically when you want to pay for the whole class. So it's a one-time payment. And usually this is obvious, not for classes that are ongoing. This is for classes that, let's say that you have a 12 weeks program and you pay, let's say, $350 with a late fee of $50, maybe a little bit more. Let's say $75 because there is some material, some books that come with the class. And you can put a little description in. You can say, pay for the whole class. And you want to allow discounts. Maybe you have different price per location if you have different locations and different and maybe you waive the sign-up fee for existing members. Let's say they were in another class before and they're already members and you want them to not have to pay the sign-up fee again. Okay, and while I'm in that class, I'm going to be a member, so I'm going to be an active member, and well, this is our class payment. And if you want people to be able to do self-booking for that class, you want to enable the self-booking. So we want to make sure this is on. Next, let's say that for some other reason, this class is not really a fixed date, specific start date, specific end date class, but it's an ongoing class that people can just hop in, hop off at any time. So we're going to create another type of payment plan for recurring payments. So this is very similar to private lessons. We're going to say, okay, this is no commitment, no pay per month, monthly payments. Let's say it's going to be $180 with a 75 sign up, waive for members, due at sign up. You can do here, you can say, for example, maybe for group classes, you do want to actually pay per lesson, right? So let's say it's a $25 per group class, and based on how many group classes there is that particular week or that particular month is going to be automatically calculated. So if you do a summer camp, for example, let's say you do a summer camp and it's not really a one class a week. You have like maybe 3 classes and then 2 classes the following week, and you're preparing a group performance or whatever. You can schedule your session with more complex combination of just 1 lesson a week for your group class. And then you can just basically pay per class, and based on what's on the calendar, that's how the billing will be calculated every month. Let's put something reasonable here. Late fee, if it's a monthly payment, you can apply late fees if the invoice is not paid. You can allow discounts. And here we're going to basically just make the student a member if they are part of this class and have the subscription. And we're going to require the terms and conditions to be accepted, and maybe we don't allow a subscription hold for that class. It makes no sense really, not for group classes maybe. Okay, so that's a second option, $25 per visit, but it's a monthly payment. We're going to also enable this for self-booking. And again, these might not make sense together. This is just for the sake of the demo. It really depends how you want to charge for your class, but I want to show you both. Next, we're going to create another plan, which is maybe more for what we call kind of like drop-in class, so hop-in, hop-off class, where you basically buy, let's say 5 lessons. So maybe it could be typical use case for this is for like jam sessions, right? You're getting private lessons and you're getting 5-pack visits to do jam sessions whenever you want, right? So you do maybe a multiple visits, pay per visit type of thing. So you're gonna do actually, sorry, not this one. It's gonna be the per visit payment, cash or credit. So we're gonna say pay per visit. Drop in whenever you want, and it's gonna be, let's say, $25, and you allow discount, and boom. And we're gonna also enable this for self-booking. Okay, so that's kind of like a typical different options for group class payments. So we're gonna update this, and as you notice, be careful, they're all enabled for self-booking, right? So when I'm gonna go self-book for these classes, I'm gonna be able to pick whatever payment plan I want based on what's enabled for me. Now, if I'm booking somebody, if I'm enrolling somebody as an admin, I will be able to pick what plan I want, right? No matter if it's enabled for self-booking or not. And finally, let's just schedule a couple of sessions here. So this is going to be my first piano adventure. And same thing, you can put in the name so it's easy to find. This is the Friday 5 p.m. class. And it's going to be maybe online only, or maybe at the Palo Alto studio. And let's schedule it. So Friday 5 p.m. Let's start in July here, for example, Friday. We're gonna go to here and schedule this at 5 p.m. Right, and maybe this one is not ongoing. Maybe this one is a weekly program that goes for, I don't know, maybe 24 weeks. Maybe a little bit less. Let's do 16 weeks, about 3 months. Okay, so weekly, recurring, 16 weeks, sorry. Submit. But now we have our class that basically starts July 9th, sorry, ends October 22nd. And now if you want to enroll students in that class, all you have to do is pick which class they should be starting from. So let's pick the 16th, and we're going to click enroll clients. And here you get an idea of whether the class is full. So for example, on the 16th, the class may not be full yet, but maybe by the 30th, there's a bunch of people actually there. So maybe there's not really any point to enroll somebody here. So if the class was full on the 30th, you would say full, and then there's no point to enroll somebody here. But here the class is wide open, so let's just enroll somebody. Right now we don't have any client yet, so we can't really enroll anybody yet. I will get back to that in a minute. Okay, so now we have our services set up. So we have a group makeup, we have a group class, we have private lessons for 30-45 minutes, and the makeups and the trial lesson. So let's, now that we have actually some services, let's do a couple of things you don't want to forget to do after creating your services. So first is we're going to make our rooms applicable for these services, right? So we're going to go update our location, and I'm going to go back here and I say, okay, in room 1, actually, we pretty much can do any of those classes, right? There's a piano there. These are all piano-based classes. We're going to make all these services applicable. In Studio 2, maybe, there's no piano there. It's a drum and guitar room. So we haven't set up any service for drums and guitar yet. So we're not going to set this up here. Maybe our group makeup is kind of like multi-instrument. Doesn't matter if there's a piano or not. And maybe it is applicable. Maybe it is not. And let's do the same thing for Studio 3. It does have a piano, so we're going to set up all these, right? So you don't want to forget to do this, or you may see warnings when you try to book your clients in those rooms and in those services. And the next thing we're going to do is actually setting up our business links. So our business links is what's going to allow us to do self-booking, right? So the self-booking links are going to be under your business settings. And these, by the way, are only editable by the business owner, right? So if you are a manager, we have different roles in the system. If you're a manager or a staff, like a front desk staff, you may not have the rights to access certain part of this UI. So as a business owner, you can go and basically update your business settings. So here I'm going to go create links. So we have 2 types of links. We have the session links, which are for group classes, and the appointment links. So here, let's create one. And you can create as many as you want, right? So let's create one. I'm going to create my trial. So by default, there's a randomly generated name, but we're going to put something spelled out like trial. And here I'm going to put all my trial lessons. So I can type trial and do select all. Right now, we only created one piano trial service, but you're going to have a violin, voice, guitar, ukulele, you name it. Then if you don't put any filters here, it's going to be for any location, for any staff. Right now, we don't have staff yet, and we have created locations, but let's say it applies for any location. Maybe it's an online only class, all right, or you only want to promote online trials with this link. And you can create different links. So you can create different link per service or per any combination of service, location, or staff. So you can also say, for example, this is trial with teacher Joe, right? So basically using that link, people will only see piano lessons with Joe, right? So you can set up as many links as you want, and you can use those as call to actions from your ads or your website. So let's just do a regular trial link here because I want to make sure my self-booking is working correctly. We're going to make this link accessible by visitors, right? So if you're doing a self-booking for your own clients, like maybe you're doing, let's say, a rehearsal session for your recital. That's not something you want to expose to people who are not your clients yet, right? This is only for your existing members. But for trials, obviously, you're targeting your new clients, your new members here. And call to actions means that basically, if somebody just create an account, they create an Opus One IO account from your website, and they haven't actually enrolled for anything because they were not ready to sign up for a lesson, when they log in, they're going to see an empty schedule, right? So you can put what we call a call to action there. And here it's going to be called book a trial, and it will be displayed to them so they can, when they click on it, they can go and book a trial lesson. So I'm going to create that link here. And let's create another one. Let's create one for group classes. We're going to set up a session widget here, and we're going to call it group class. So there's going to be a generic link with all our group classes. Maybe not the makeup one, because that's for existing members. And accessible by visitors, and we're going to say enroll in a group class. Group class. And here we're going to set up our piano adventure, right? And you notice we only see the group classes showing up here. Boom, don't forget to update. Okay, now we have 2 links. So how do these links work? So the best way to test these links is to open another incognito window or create another profile. So you want to create different Chrome profiles so you can log in as different person to see what your admin or your student or your parent or your staff experiences, because they will all see different part of the UI in different ways. So here, for example, I'm going to copy this URL and I'm going to go to my client profile, and I'm going to type w/trial. And this is the trials that we set up, right? So if I click here, actually, we only set up 1 trial lesson, short description, and all ages. We didn't put any age restrictions. And when I click on it, I see the details. Remember the long description that we talked about? It's going to be here. Age restrictions, cost, that's the trial price that we set up, and the duration, and it's a piano private trial lesson, right? Now, if you notice here, there is nobody available because we haven't created teachers yet, and we haven't set up teachers to teach that class yet. Okay, so we're going to do that now. And actually, if you want to try the group class, you can do the same thing here from here. And this is our group class, right? So this is my first piano adventure. We've set up the service. We have different pricing. We have a per visit monthly, and we have a flat fee for the whole class. And when we click on it, we can see that we have a class starting on July 9th, 16 dates. And when I click on it, I can actually pick different payment plans that we chose, right? We created full payment, monthly payment, or per visit. So if I choose full payment, it's going to basically enroll me in the class starting the next actual date of the class. And this is the next one is actually July 9th here at 5 p.m. But if I click monthly payment, I can actually get to, I can see how many spots are available, and I can say, okay, I actually want to start on the 16th because I'm still on vacation on the 9th. And it's going to prorate and calculate actually based on the number of visits, right? So I probably have a certain amount of visits that month, and it's going to charge me based on that amount. When you click actually book, it's going to give you the detail, right? So actually what we have here, we have 3 times $25, so $75, plus a $75 sign-up fee, right? So that's how the 150 is coming, how it's calculated. I'm starting on July 16th, and then I'm going to pay $25 per visit on a monthly basis, right? And here I can see the terms and conditions, and I can enter my credit card payment. Right now, this account is not enabled for electronic payment, but you would be able to put a credit card number here and enroll when your account is set up. Going back to the session, I can pick, depending on what you enabled, you can pay for the full class, or you can pay per visit. And if you pay per visit, you can say, okay, I want this one, and this one. Okay, so you set up, you pick those visits, and then you can go ahead and book. All right, let's go back to our setup. So what we're missing now is pretty much only one thing. It's staff. So we need teachers, right? Without teachers, we can't teach much. So we're going to create a staff. So let's create a staff. We're going to create a teacher. We're going to call it Joe Satriani. Let's say he's a male. So a little thing here that's actually pretty interesting is if you want to test the system, so right now, as you noticed, when you create a new account, your client notifications are off. And this is very, very convenient. So you can import your data, you can put your customers in, you can put your teachers in, and they don't get any email notification, they don't get any confusion until you actually announce it and you go live. We can turn this on and off for you at any time. So if you want to do some testing, we can turn on these client notifications, and then you can use a trick, which is basically very convenient. You can put your email, so let's say Sam here for me, and you can put a plus sign, and you can put anything you want after that plus sign. So let's say I'm going to say Joe S at here my email opusone.io. So what does this do? What this do is the email will actually go to Sam at opusone.io here. But to the system, this will look like a different email. So my login here for this user, Joe Satriani, will be Sam plus Joe S at opusone.io. But the email will still go to my mailbox. So this is a very actually very a lot of people don't know about this trick. It's a standard. You can use it in a lot of different applications. It's very convenient when you want to create accounts with different emails that look different but actually go to the same mailbox. Okay, so going forward with that stuff here, we're going to put a photo. So let's click here, and we're going to pick a photo for Joe Satriani. Here it is. Well, oh, the file is too small. So you want to make sure you have a photo of high enough quality. So let's maybe, I'm going to pick another photo here that's a little bit bigger. So this doesn't really look like a Joe, but that's fine. It's for the demo. So we have our Joe here. You can put birth date, address, phone numbers. Next, you can put the Zoom link. So if you teach on Zoom or online or Google Hangouts or whatever, make sure you put the full URL here, right? So https://zoom.us, etc., or Google Hangouts or whatever you want to use. And this is the Zoom link that your students will be taken to when they enroll. When they join online their lesson. Okay, so now we're going to add availabilities, right? So this is when Joe Satriani will be available to take appointment to do private lessons, right? You can assign Joe to group classes, but that's not an appointment availability. That's basically Joe teaching group classes. Now, Joe can also maybe teach private lessons, and this is when he's going to be available for private lessons. So here we're going to say, for example, multiple dates from, let's say, July 1st, doesn't really matter what day we start. Joe is going to be teaching on Monday and Wednesdays on a weekly basis from, let's say, 3 p.m. to 9 p.m. And is going to be teaching. So maybe if you want Joe to teach online exclusively, you're going to choose online. There's no room for online, right? It's a special location for online lessons. But he's going to be teaching online only, right? Now, if you want to do hybrid, you can say Joe is teaching at the Palo Alto studio. And you can also assign your room, which is recommended because when people will self-enroll for appointment with Joe and they pick that day, they will be automatically assigned to the right room, right? So that will save you a lot of time. Now, Joe may be teaching only in person, or maybe he is at the studio and he takes some students in person who want to come in person. Some students choose to remain online. You can do hybrid, right? So here you can actually set up that he is actually at the studio, but he's also taking online students, right? So when people will self-book, they will have the option to choose, do I want just Joe guitar teacher online or Joe guitar teacher in person? They can choose how they want it. And these are the services that Joe provides, right? So here we only created the piano services, so I'm just going to select all. I was mentioning that Joe is a guitar teacher, doesn't matter. Here we have piano services. Okay, so we're going to set what Joe is available for. So if you don't want Joe to do makeups, you just remove makeups from these availabilities, right? People will only be able to book trials or regular lessons with him. If you want a teacher to do only makeups, then maybe you do only makeups, right? So you have the flexibility to set up different block of availabilities at different times for different teachers in different rooms and specify who is available when and where and for what services, right? What you would usually do, the most effective, is to say, okay, Joe's available for everything. I mean, all the piano services here. But then later on, when Joe is getting full, you may have some cancellation because of people are canceling lessons, but you don't want people to book trial lessons in those spots because Joe is actually really full and there's no need to, he's not really taking new students, right? So a good way to indicate that Joe is not taking new students is to just remove trials from Joe, right? So now he's only doing makeups and regular lessons, right? So you have different options. So I'm going to put trial back here because I want to show you the self-booking interface. You can put some notes here. So this is for payroll purposes. You can put a note. So this is the teaching hours. And next is for payroll. So this is a big topic. We're probably going to do a separate video just about payroll. But long story short, if you are in a state that requires your teachers to be employees, W-2 employees in the United States, and if they need to be paid when they're between lessons or when they're before lessons or when they're just available but they're not actually teaching, what some schools do is they pay them a minimum rate when they are basically available but not really teaching, right? So you can set different pay rates for different services. We're going to look at that in a minute. But you can say, okay, when between lessons or when Joe is available but somebody canceled, we're just going to go ahead and pay him a minimum wage. So let's say $15 in California. You don't have to do this. It's really up to you. If you do contractors, you may not need to do this. It depends on what kind of agreement you have with your contractors or your employees for payroll. And again, we'll do a separate video more detailed about payroll. So I'm going to set a minimum wage for California here at $15 per hour. So at least when Joe is not teaching, but if he's available and available to take students, we still have to pay him. And between lessons, we're going to pay him $15 per hour. Done. Okay, so this is Joe's availability, every week, Monday and Wednesday in Palo Alto and online. And he's going to be compensated $15 per hour when he's not providing a service, right? So what does that mean? When he is providing a service, we actually want to give him an hourly rate. So you would go on the staff rate in the in his profile here, and we're going to pick an hourly rate. Let's say, I don't know, $45. And we're going to say when you're teaching any of these services, you're going to get this much. So let's say we're going to do all the piano services except the group class, right? And we're going to say if the student doesn't show up, we're still paying you. And if it's a late cancellation, you're still getting paid. But if it's a regular cancellation, maybe we don't pay you, right? So it's really up to you, again, depending on how you pay your teachers. Now, let's say that something that's often done is that you pay a certain rate for some services and maybe you pay a different rate for other services. So for example, let's say when you do group classes, so let's do the group makeup and the piano adventure, we're going to pay you a fixed rate of, let's say, I don't know, $50 per class, right? So whether the class is 45 minutes or an hour, whatever, every time you teach that class, you get $50 flat. It's not based on the hourly rate. It's just on maybe a higher rate per class on a fixed price basis per actual lesson, right? So not per session, per class. And you can say we're going to count the no-shows and the late cancel and the cancel, except for here, we only have group classes, so there's not really cancel and late cancel. We're just going to leave it that way. And this is basically how you do basic teachers availability. All right, so now that we have created a teacher, we have teacher Joe here. So a couple of things about teachers and staff in general. So we have different roles. This is a teacher. So the role that this teacher is going to have is what we call a limited staff. So staff meaning somebody who works for the business as opposed to a client. A limited staff is a staff that is obviously limited in the sense that that staff only has access to his or her own schedule, his or own students, and his or own information, right? You have other roles above limited staff for your front desk staff, your managers, your business owners that have a lot more privileges and access to more things. But usually a teacher will be a limited staff. Couple of other things to note about staff and teachers. We can create custom roles. So for example, by default, the limited staff role is not able to take his or own lessons attendance. That's something that we can customize for you by creating a custom role. So please contact us and we'll set that up for you. Another thing to note is that any staff is also a client, right? So if I go to Joe's staff account here, I can switch back and forth between his or her staff profile or client profile. So scrolling down a little bit here, I'm looking at Joe's staff profile. So I see his schedule. I see his upcoming events or active sessions, which are group classes that are currently scheduled that he or she is teaching, and the list of clients that may have lessons with Joe in the next few weeks. And also, by the way, in the past couple of weeks. So that's kind of an ongoing updated list of clients currently taking lessons with Joe, whether it's a makeup, a trial, a regular lesson, a group class, etc. Now, if I switch, if I want to see Joe as a client, so let's say Joe may be taking lessons with other teachers. Joe may be buying books. Joe may be participating to other events as a client. So you can switch to Joe's client profile, right? So this is Joe's client profile right here. And let me adjust this a little bit here. And then here you go. This is basically what you would see for Joe, Joe being a client in this case. And if you look at the clients list, Joe is also listed as a client, right? So I can access all my clients here. Joe is actually a limited staff, but is also a client. So, but if I click on staff, I can see Joe as well here as a staff. So something to be aware of. Okay, so as we just set up, we have Joe available every Tuesday from 3 to 9 p.m. For specific services, piano private lessons, piano makeups, and trial lessons. And we also have actually Joe teaching a group class. Joe is assigned here to a group makeup Tuesdays at 6 p.m. There's currently no students enrolled in that group class. Note that we see here on Sunday, July the 4th, that Joe is unavailable, and that's not because we set Joe specifically as unavailable on Sundays or on July the 4th. Actually, if you look at next Sunday, Joe is not listed neither as available nor blocked. Is only available on Tuesday, for example. But here the reason why this whole day is blocked is because the location is marked as closed for the holiday on July 4th. So when you set a location as closed for holidays, for example, it will block all the teachers that have any availability in those locations. So that prevents people from booking potential trial lessons or makeups or other and self-enrolling into classes on the days that your business is closed. And that way you don't have to mark every single teacher as unavailable during the holidays. We can do it at the location level. Okay, so now we have a staff set up with some availabilities, some rates for payroll, etc. Now what we're going to look at is clients. So one more step here in our setup is creating our clients. So we're going to go to clients, and let's create a family. We're going to create the Doe family with John and Tom and Alice and mom and dad and the kids. And so I'm going to show you how to do this. Note that when you get started with a brand new account, we can help you import your data, right? So you can send us a CSV file with all your client information, and we will help you import it as best we can based on the data that we get. So you don't have to create all your clients manually if you're migrating from another platform. So you can always create new clients by going to the quick register client button up here. These three buttons are, and the search bar here are basically things you're going to do on a regular basis, so you have a quick access to it. So somebody walks in or somebody gives you a call, you want to create an account for them, you can just click register client right here. Okay, so I'm going to create, let's start with the dad, the dad is going to be John, last name Doe, mail. So email, let's do johndoe at gmail.com. Let's put an address. Actually, address is not mandatory. We're going to skip it, but obviously you might want to have address for your customers. You can upload a photo here. So I'm going to click on upload photo here, and I'm going to select John Doe's. All right, now we have a nice photo. Phone number, so let's enter a phone number here. As you see, you can have multiple phone numbers. Phone numbers can be shared, so you can have mom and dad having two separate accounts. Emails have to be unique, so that's very important because emails are used for logins, but phone numbers can be shared, so you can have the same phone number for mom and dad, for example. And obviously it's better to have different people with their correct number, so you know who you're talking to or who's calling. Anyway, so as you notice, there's a primary phone number. That's selected automatically. If you have more than one, you can specify which one is the primary one. Birth date is not mandatory. This is mostly useful for students who are underaged, and if you need to know what age, how old they are for different classes. But obviously you don't need it for adults, students. Client status. So client status is something you can set up manually. Certain statuses will be set automatically, like member or member lost. You can set parents as clients if you want manually to kind of filter them out and recognize them from other clients that may be in your system but are not active or are not payers for existing students. Then we have other other prospect labels. These can be set automatically. When you set up, for example, trial lesson, it's a good idea to mark students who are having a trial as prospect trial, so you can easily find them and follow up with them. And once taking attendance, mark them as follow up. Or you can set statuses manually on your clients. Okay, account managers and dependents. So right now we're setting up John Doe. John Doe is going to be the dad. John Doe may be a student himself or may just be the dad of other children that are taking lessons. Right now, those don't exist yet, so we can set up. So we cannot set John as a account manager for his kids yet. But when we create the kid, we will link the kid to the dad, etc. Next, we have client notifications. So these are notifications that on their own clients can log in and turn off. So if let's say, for example, dad is the payer, dad is paying the bills but doesn't want to be reminded when the lessons are happening for his own lessons or for his kids' lessons, or when subscriptions are updated, or when lessons are canceled, or when the time of the teacher is changed, dad can opt out of those notifications and just turn these off, or you can turn them off for them for dad if he's requesting it. Customers can request to opt out of marketing emails, so you can turn that off. That will basically ensure that we don't synchronize this email with your MailChimp, for example, for newsletters. And next, finally, you have what we call custom attributes. So these are set up at your business level. You can create as many custom attributes as you want for clients. These will not be visible by your clients, but is a way for you to store additional information, like, for example, allergies, emergency contact, who referred that client, if they allow you to use their kids' photos for marketing purposes, things like that, what schools they attend, any information you may need to know about your students. Okay, so we have John Doe's account ready to go here. What I'm going to do is you can just click create. That will just create John, but here we're going to create John, but right away we want to create his dependents, right? So we're going to click create and add dependent right away. And what this will do is it will just create John Doe's account, and now it already sent me straight to creating a new client, and that will be for the dependent. And as you notice, the dependent already has Joe as an account manager selected. So we're going to create Tom Doe here, mail. We don't need email addresses for children. Some teenagers may have their own email and may want to log in to see their schedule or cancel their own lessons or things like that. Most kids usually under a certain age won't have email addresses, so email addresses are not mandatory, but obviously you need an email to log in. So if you want people to log into the system, it will be using their email address. You don't really need to collect address and phone number information for students and children. We're going to skip that. Birth date is important, right? So you may want to know the age of the students. So let's say, let's make Tom about 5 or 6 years old. So let's say 2014, January. So you don't really need to set a status for Tom. The status, again, will be set automatically when you book a trial or when you when Tom has an active subscription. So John is already selected as Tom's account manager, right? So if this was not set automatically, you could just go here and say, okay, John is the account manager, and that's how you link Tom and John. You don't need to go into John and link Tom as a dependent on John. It's automatic, right? So if John is an account manager for Tom, Tom will be set as a dependent for John automatically. Okay, so let's go ahead and create that. And now we have both Tom and John set up in the system, right? So actually, I forgot to put a photo for Tom, so we're going to go back and click the photo and pick Tom photo here. Here you go. Here is Tom's photo. And we're just going to click update here, so don't forget to update. All right, so now we have Tom in the system. We have dad. Let's maybe add mom, right? Let's add another person. So we're going to create, we're going to register a new client, and we're going to call her Jane, Doe, female. Let's set up an email for Jane. And let's skip all that. Here we want to make sure that Tom is set up as a dependent for Jane. Here we go. Create, right? So now we have basically Jane. Actually, I forgot a photo for Jane. Let's add a photo. Here we go. Jane is here. Okay, let's update. All right, now we have Jane, we have Tom, and we have Tom here. And actually, if we refresh here, we now we have Jane also created. So as we explained, we have a student named Tom. He's 7 years old, and he has two parents, Jane and John. Okay. So now let's book a lesson for Tom. So you can book lessons in different ways. So what we're gonna do now is maybe book a trial lesson first for Tom. So let's go. We're gonna go to book appointment, or you can do it from here. You can do it from Tom's account directly, or you can do it from the calendar. So let's look at the calendar, for example. So let's look at our calendar, week view, and we're gonna maybe pick Tuesday. We're gonna open the filters here, scroll up here a little bit so we see the calendar. We're gonna show staff availabilities. Here we're on the room view, so we're seeing who's available online, who's available at the different locations. We can show all the rooms, or we can show only the active one. We can also view by staff. So we only have Joe currently on the schedule here. And let's book a lesson with Joe. So you can book straight from the calendar. So Joe is available for piano lessons here. So be careful, you cannot drag and drop directly on that availability thing here, but you can do it from the side here. There's a little bit of an opening here. So let's select the 5 p.m. Time slot here. And from here, we can either change Joe's availabilities, or we can book an appointment. So we're going to click book appointment. When you book an appointment here, because we selected Joe, the staff is automatically populated. We're going to pick a service. So we don't have a lot of services here. So let's say that we're starting with a trial lesson. So let's pick trial lesson. And we're going to pick online. And we already selected July 6, 5 p.m. And we want to select Tom here. There we go. So a couple of things to note here. You can see additional availabilities for the teacher Joe. If you have other teachers, you might see other options here. The system will provide you suggestions. And finally, another thing you might want to consider is, you can put an appointment on hold. What does that mean? So let's say you're talking to Tom's mom, Jane, about booking a trial, but they're not really sure yet. You want to hold the spot for them for a couple of hours or for a couple of days. You could click hold appointment and basically place a hold for that particular spot. This is a trial lesson, so it's not an ongoing lesson, so there's no option to make it a recurring lesson. But you can put a lesson on hold for different reasons and for a period of time. So for example, if you were booking a regular piano lesson, recurring, you would click recurring, and then now you can put a hold that will be a recurring hold. But just like a regular hold, you can set up an expiry. So what that means is that you can tell the mom, if I don't hear back from you by, let's say, the next 48 hours, the hold will go away and the spot will become available for somebody else again. And then you can click hold. Okay, so we're going to go back to booking our trial lesson. We're not going to put it on hold. We're just going to go ahead and book it. When you book as an admin, you have different options. So the system will offer you the relevant plans that are payment plan option that you have here. We're not going to be using a credit. It's not a makeup. We're going to be actually, charging the customer $25 for this trial. Now, there is no credit card currently. You can select any of Tom or John Doe's household. You have to select the payer here. Right? The payer is obviously the one who's going to be paying for it. So payment method, credit cards, things like that are assigned to individuals. So here, none of neither Jane nor John have a payment method set. So we're going to go and add a credit card for Jane. And actually, the system here is not enabled for electronic payments. So that's where you would actually enter the credit card information. Note that we also support payment terminals, right? So you can do that. Here, I'm going to take a payment in cash. If there is any applicable credit, so if you were booking a makeup, if you were booking a trial and they were using a credit, a lesson credit that they acquired from canceling a previous one, for example, or manually issued, or from a gift card or things like that, you would be able to select a credit here. We also support promotion campaigns that we will cover in a separate video. So if there was an applicable promotion here, you could just apply it directly. So here we have a single visit trial lesson that is on the on the quote, and you can add discount. So let's say if you wanted to add a discount for it, you could, and offer 50% discount, for example. I'm not going to put a discount now. Okay, so now we have three options to move forward. By default, the system in the system, everything you book is always due at the moment you book it. Even if the lesson is scheduled for a week from now or 2 months from now, you by default the payment is due on the moment that you book. However, you have a few alternatives. So obviously you can just enroll and pay now, and that will be booking the trial right now and charging the customer right now here in cash. Or you can do an enroll and pay later, right? So depending on how you deal with payments, you could trust your customer to pay later and enroll them now and hold the spot for them essentially, and taking payment later and have to follow up with them to get the payment. That's a strategy you can do. Or you can not actually do the booking, but you can send them a proposal. So what this will do, for example, and I'll show you an example, it will let you type a little message and say, "Hi Jane, as we discussed on the phone, here is a proposal for a trial lesson for Tom." And Jane will receive an email with a quote so that she will see what is due. She will be able to review the terms and conditions. She will be able to review the time and the teacher that was selected in the previous step, and basically confirm the booking by herself and enter her own credit card payment method. So this is useful, for example, in this case where we just created a client, maybe they just gave us a call, we don't have a credit card for them on file, so we just want to send them a proposal so that they can basically enroll by themselves. You can send proposals for trials, for single lessons, or for enrolling into group classes, or for enrolling into weekly lessons. So that sending a proposal is a good method to convert students after a trial lesson. If they're not ready to sign up on the spot and they want to talk to their husband or talk with their kids at home and check their schedule, etc., etc., you can send them a proposal and then they can just review it, check their emails, review the terms and conditions, and then enroll. So here I'm just going to go ahead and book the trial lesson. So Jane is the payer and Tom Doe is the student, and I'm going to book and pay now and take a cash payment here. Here we go. Now Tom is actually enrolled, and we will see that Tom is now has a upcoming trial lesson with teacher Joe at 5 p.m. on Tuesday, July 6th. Couple of things you can do here. You can click update, you can change the time. So let's say they realize, oh, actually we don't want to do 5 p.m., we want to do 7 p.m. You can go ahead and just update it, right? The system will tell you if there is any conflict. If you pick maybe 5 p.m. Or 7 p.m., whatever time you pick, you can decide to notify the client or not. So we're gonna send a little message and say, per your request, the lesson scheduled to 7 p.m. and update. Okay, you can also cancel that lesson. So this is not a self-cancellation, this is a cancellation that I'm doing here as an admin. We have two types of cancellations. What we call a client cancellation. So that's a cancellation that is requested by the client, and you may have a specific cancellation policy for that. Or a staff cancellation. A staff cancellation is a cancellation that is requested by, or that is initiated by the business, usually because your teacher is unavailable to provide the service, right? Maybe sick, maybe on vacation for whatever reason. And you may have a different cancellation policy based on whether it's a staff cancellation or a client cancellation. Also, if it's a client cancellation, we will differentiate between a late cancellation and a not late cancellation. So for example, if we're just going to do a client cancellation here for whatever reason, and let's say they requested to cancel that trial for now, you can also add a little message to confirm them and say, per your request, the trial has been canceled. And you can say a makeup credit has been issued to your account. And the system will confirm here that based on how the cancellation policy is set up for your trial lesson, you will get a credit issued to Tom. You can also elect not to issue a credit and just override it, and for whatever reason cancel the lesson with no makeup credit. So here, as you notice, the lesson is canceled right away, a credit is issued. When a credit is issued, you can always look at its details and see for what it was issued, right? So this one was issued automatically because you canceled this lesson that was scheduled on July 6th, right? So you have full traceability between how lessons are paid for and what credits have been issued for the cancellation of which appointment or which lesson. Now, let's say that you a couple days go by, Jane calls back and say, we figured out a time, we're ready for our trial, we want to book, we want to use our trial. By the way, Jane can do this from her own account online. Take a look at the client portal a little bit later. But as an admin here, we're going to go ahead and click use on the credit, just like the client would do on their profile, on their account. And from there, it's going to take us straight to booking an appointment for the right service for Tom. And it's going to keep in mind that we're actually going to be using a credit, but that's going to appear a little bit later. So let's say that they actually wanted to reschedule the trial to the following week. So let's go to July 13th. We're going to pick, let's say they wanted 5:30, and we're going to pick Joe Satriani online, and we're going to go ahead and book. And as you notice here, the credit is automatically selected, right? Because here, we're basically using a credit to pay for that lesson because they're using a lesson credit that was credited when the lesson was canceled. So all I have to do here is do enroll and pay now. And now, in a few clicks, we cancel the lesson, issue the credit automatically, and use that credit to book another lesson. Okay. So now let's say that the lesson went well. Let's fast forward a couple of weeks. The lesson happened. Tom is very happy with the teacher. Tom wants to sign up for regular lessons. So we're going to assume that we're July 13th, right after the lesson. We're going to go ahead and book an appointment for ongoing piano lessons for Tom with teacher Joe. So we're going to go to book appointments and select the following week, the 20th. And we're going to pick this time a piano private lesson. Maybe he wants to actually do 45 minutes. We're going to pick an available time. This one we want to make it recurring. This is a weekly lesson that will never end. And at least not for now. We don't know when they will end their lessons. And we're going to go ahead and book it. So this is the system calculating for you. Based on when the lesson is starting, July 20th, the base price for your monthly membership with a proration base for the rest of the month, because we are signing up on the 20th and there is about 11 days left in the month. Know that you can apply discounts. You can apply also temporary discounts. So you can say, maybe I want to give you a recurring discount for whatever reason. Maybe we have a special promotion going on. you're getting your first, during the summer, your lessons are a little bit discounted, but the discount will go away. So let's say you get a 15% discount during the summer. Sorry, summer promotion, and but that discount will expire automatically at the end of the summer, end of August, right? So you can do temporary discounts like these. You can apply discounts for the sign-up fees to the plan. You can make it recurring or not, entirely up to you. And we're going to take a payment in check this time. So check, it can be anything else. If you take Venmo, whatever, you can put a Venmo number or a PayPal number. So there is ways to take payments externally. Obviously, the easiest is to just just take credit cards. But go ahead. Let's go ahead and book. You notice that the system here will automatically give you the applicable payment plan option, right? There's no single visit here because we're booking a recurring lesson weekly. And we're gonna now be ready to click enroll and pay now. And now, if we go back to Tom, now Tom has a piano private lesson on a weekly basis starting July 20th. And he has a new membership, so Tom will become a member. So Tom is not technically a member yet. Tom will become a member on the 20th, right? So that's why there's no label assigned to Tom right now. Tom will become a member automatically when his subscription starts, which is July 20th. And there's no end because the subscription is starting on the 20th and currently pending, not yet active. And we see that if we click on update, the payer is set to Jane. Sometime when you set up your students, you may have set the wrong payer, but here you can switch the payer between the dad or the mom. Now let's go back here. What else do we have? We have invoices. So right now you're looking at Tom Doe's account and you're seeing Tom's lessons. You're seeing his subscription. Note that he hasn't accepted terms and conditions yet. So what that means is that because we set up payment plans requiring terms and conditions acceptance, this will basically send an email every 5 days to both account managers and let them know, hey, you have an active subscription, but you haven't accepted our terms and conditions yet. And that way you can click a button and review the terms and conditions and accept them. If for some reason you have them sign a paper outside, or they're a customer that you migrated from another platform and you want to just mark them as accepted, you can go ahead and just say, okay, they accepted the terms and conditions. I'm just going to check it there, and no need to send them emails on an ongoing basis. No need to bother them. They already signed it. Invoices. So right now you see that July has already been paid, and you can see all invoices right here. You can see all the invoices. You see that July has already been paid. And that was a prorated invoice for July. And August is next due. Now, if I look at the schedule, you can notice that these lessons have been paid and everything looks good here. But starting in August, obviously, tuition has not been paid yet, right? So if Jane called the business right now and say, oh, by the way, we're going to be away on June 3rd. We're having a little summer weekend or whatever. We can't make that lesson. So if you try to cancel that lesson as an admin, it will first let you know this is an unpaid lesson, right? So we actually only going to let you do a staff cancellation, right? And the reason for that is because if you're canceling because your teacher is going to be away or sick that day, you know what you're doing. You may want to handle those ahead of time. However, if it's a client cancellation, you need to require the client to pay their August tuition first before you can essentially cancel an August lesson and issue them a credit. So here we're going to tell Jane, okay, I'm happy to cancel that lesson for you. However, I would request that you give us authorization to charge a credit card now for August, because you will receive a credit right now for that August lesson, which, by the way, you can use right away this week or next, and schedule your makeup ahead of time. So we're gonna go ahead and pay. So I'm gonna click pay. Again, Jane can do this on her own on the portal. We'll look at it in a few minutes later. And we're gonna go ahead and take a payment. Let's say that she's paying in check again, and here's a check number and check out. Okay, now August is paid, and now you see the August lessons are marked as paid, and I can go ahead and cancel a lesson in August. So we were talking about canceling August 3rd. Let's go ahead and cancel that one. It's now a client cancellation, and we can also add a little message and say, hi Jane, per your request, lesson on 8.3 has been canceled. And of course you have a makeup credit you can use, and etc. Okay, so that's a good example of paying for lessons and booking. Now let's say that for some reason Jane wants to stop Tom's lessons at the end of August, or let's say at the end of September. Let's say they're just going to be taking lessons for the weekend. Tom has too many activities going on after the summer, so you're not going to be canceling the lessons here one by one. That would be crazy, right? So the cancellations are really only for canceling lessons at a specific lessons. If you're actually ending the lessons, you actually want to end the subscription. So these lessons are tied to the subscription here. And if you want to stop the lessons and stop the recurring billing after a certain date, then you would have to click end on the subscription. So here we're going to click end, and we're going to say, okay, we're not ending right now. They actually want to end at the end of August. They already actually paid for August, so that's fine. And we want to make sure that we want to notify the client so they get some kind of confirmation this was done. And if they had any makeup credits that have been issued for lessons, you can have them automatically expire after a certain period of time. So you can say, hey, you're ending your subscription August 31st, and we're going to give you 30 days to use the credits that you may have on your account for that particular subscription. And subscription. So now basically what happens, the future billing are removed and canceled, and lessons are ending end of August. There's no more lessons after that, and the subscription is set to end on the 31st. Okay, now let's say that Tom is going to be joining a group class. So I believe we set up a group class earlier, my first piano adventure. Let's take a quick look at it. We have multiple sessions. Actually, we didn't set up any sessions for piano adventure, so let's create a session. We're going to create a new session for the piano adventure. And let's call it the fall session, and this is going to be the actually maybe let's call it fall piano adventure, and this is a Saturday 5 p.m. Again, the naming is a convention. You can name your sessions however you want. This is going to be at the Palo Alto studio, and now we have a session created. Now we're going to go to the schedule, and we're going to go ahead and add and schedule those dates, right? So we're going to start on Saturday in September. So let's say it starts on the 4th of September, and we're going to schedule a date. We're going to keep the location that was specified here. It's going to be recurring. So let's create an ongoing class that keeps going, right? So it's going to be every Saturdays at 5 p.m. we said. And so, by the way, the system tells you a warning because earlier when we set up the location hours, we actually said that we were open only from 9 to 5 or 9 to 4 on Saturdays, but let's just ignore it here for the sake of this tutorial, and go ahead. So as an admin, by the way, you can always override these warnings, right? So you can schedule teachers' lessons at any time, day and night, whether the business is open or whether the teacher is available, because we assume that as an admin you know what you're doing. But when people self-book, when clients book, we only allow them obviously to book at times that are available. Okay, so we have a 5 p.m. Session. So this is an ongoing session. If we click on our sessions, we see it's ongoing. It starts on September 4th, and it never ends. Right now, there's no end date on that session. If you decide at some point that we're going to end that session, it's actually we're going to let it go for a few months, and maybe at the end of 2021, let's say after December 25th. Or maybe we're closed for Christmas, right? So let's say after the 18th, we're just going to end the session. So we're going to click on the last date of that session, and we're going to click remove scheduled dates. And here we're going to make it, we're going to remove it from calendar because it's going away entirely. We don't want to keep track of it. It's really at the end of that session. and we're going to remove future scheduled dates. So that's going to remove everything. If anybody was already enrolled in that class, which is not the case right now, but if anybody was enrolled in that class, we would automatically set their subscriptions to end at the end of that session, because we don't want them to continue paying even though the class is over or the session is over. Okay, so we're going to remove that. And now, as you noticed, if we go back to December, our session ends on the 18th, right? So now it says the session is going to be ending on the 18th. Okay, so now let's enroll Tom for that session. So Tom can start anytime. There are certain classes that you may need your student to start at a certain date, or some classes that are ongoing and people can join at any time. So here, let's, for the sake of the example, we're going to start on the 18th. I'm going to click on the 18th, and I'm going to click enroll client. So actually, first, let's assign a teacher, because we have nobody teaching that class. Let's say that Joe is going to be teaching that class here. So I'm going to assign Joe. Actually, even better, we're going to assign Joe from the beginning, right? So we're going to pick the first class. We're going to assign Joe, and we're going to apply the change to future visits, future dates here. And we're going to click update, right? So now Joe is going to be assigned, you see, for all future classes for that particular session, okay? Now, starting on the 18th, we're going to enroll our Tom. Enroll clients. And here you're getting a view of the dates of the session, and if there is what we call either regular slots or drop-in slots available. We'll talk about drop-in slots a little bit later. That's mostly for makeups. And here we're going to go and select Tom. And we can select multiple dates depending on what type of class this is. Some class you may want to just schedule Tom a couple of times. Maybe it's a jam session or something like that. But here, this is a class where Tom is starting on the 18th and is going to be in the class every week going forward on a monthly payment, for example, plan. I'm going to click payments, and now we can pick one of our available payment plans. We're not going to charge per visit. We're going to charge a monthly payment here that starts on the 18th, and this is a plan where you're paying per classes on that month, right? So, and you can go back in the video earlier when we set up the payment plan for that class. So here we're going to take a payment in check. Let's say check number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and we're going to go ahead and enroll Tom in that class starting on the 18th. And here you go. Now Tom is enrolled, and he's actually, as you can see, doing private lessons until end of August, and now he is in the Piano Adventure class, the fall session at 5 p.m. every Saturday at 5 p.m. And September is already paid, and the next invoice will be starting in October, and you can see that the October lessons are unpaid yet. You can have a longer view on the schedule if you click on all schedule here, and you can say, okay, show me the next 180 days, right? And you can go and see all the lessons coming up, everything that Tom is scheduled for the next 180 days. And as you see, he's enrolled in that class until the class ends on the December 18th. Okay, next we're going to take a look now at the experience from the client's perspective. So we're going to go through kind of like the typical self-enrollment of a new client, enrolling into a trial lesson, then converting to regular weekly lessons, and then doing a couple of things like canceling lessons, booking makeups, and stuff like that. So we have a few services and things set up. So first, we're going to double check that we have a self-booking link. So for that, you go to your business settings, you go to links, and we did set up earlier a trial link, and we have one trial lesson, trial service here set up for trials. And we're going to close this. It's already ready. So let's take a look. Let's open another window as a client here. And we open the w/trial, which is our self-booking link here. So we only have one service, so it's taking us straight to that service page. But if you had multiple, you'll get a list to pick from. And you see here, I'm not logged in. I'm what we call a visitor. I don't have an account yet, so I can browse. And this link, it will be something that is on your website. send through your newsletter, on a Google or Facebook ad or promotion campaign or whatever to bring people to your self-booking interface for booking a trial lesson or enrolling into a group class, for example. So for example, what I'm going to do now is going to click here, and we did set up, so actually let's before we finalize this, you see that Joe doesn't have a lot of information here, right? So we have a nice photo, doesn't really match the name, but that's fine. We're going to put a little bit more information about Joe, because as you can see, if you have multiple teachers, you know, your clients are not going to get a lot of information and about Joe, right? So you want to make sure you set up your staff all the way. So I'm going to go back as an admin here, and I'm going to click on Joe and update Joe's profile. So a couple of things that we haven't done yet is you can set a secondary attribute. So that could be some kind of tag, your master tag to put on your teacher. So it could be a level, it could be the instrument they teach, it could be just teacher, it could be piano master or whatever. So it's kind of like a secondary attribute that we can put on top of your teacher. Another thing that we're going to do is we're going to add a bio. So I'm just going to do just a bunch of generated text here. Here we go. Let's pretend this is a teacher's bio. So you want to put some information about your teacher so that your customers know who they're booking with. And let me adjust this a little bit. And then you can add some what we call categorized tags. So categorized tags, could basically are there to provide additional information about your teachers. So for example, you can put some information about the teaching style. So let's just put style, and you can say, beginners to advanced. You can say pop and classical. So you can put different tags about the teaching style. You can also add information about what exams they prepare students for, let's say ABRSM, RCM, CM, whatever, AP, different type of certification that they prepare for. And you want to make sure your teachers are visible by visitors and by clients if you want to enable self-booking for them. And we already previously in this video set up their availabilities. So we have pretty much this teacher available every Tuesday for piano lessons here. So I'm going to update this here. And we're going to go back to our self-booking interface. So going back to our client experience here. I'm going to refresh. And now we see that we have a little bit more information. It looks a bit nicer. We have the secondary tag, the master tag that you set on the teacher. We have their bio, and we have some of these tags that show up as well here. All right, so now I'm a client. I'm just browsing your website, or I saw your ad online. I want to book a trial lesson. So this is where, by the way, as we said earlier, you want to make sure you put a lot of details here about your school and about your teachers, your cancellation policy, why people should book a makeup. They need to have enough information here. And you want to put a lot of other photos here. Here we only put one photo. Put photos of your facilities, of your teachers, of happy students. You want to provide a little bit more information than what we did here to make sure people feel comfortable about booking a trial lesson here. Now let's look at what's available. So that teacher is actually only available on Tuesdays. So if I can pick different dates, and we set up the schedule optimization strategy feature that basically only shows a few available slots around existing lessons. So actually, you can tell that Joe has a lesson from 5:30 to 6, and then we're basically showing only the slots around it, right? So let's make another little tweak. Let's make Joe available actually online as well, but let's say that he's actually back teaching at the studio. So we're going to make Joe available at the Palo Alto studio, but also available online. Let's make that little update here. So that's going to give us a few more options. Now we're going to refresh here. And now, as you can see, we're getting more options, right? We still see the same slots, but we can pick whether we want a lesson at the studio or online. So that will give you an indication on whether the student wants online or in-person lessons. So let's say we want to be in person at 5:30. So I'm going to click book. And because I don't have an account yet, I'm being prompted for creating an account, right? So this is the background that you set when you set up your business. This is your logo, obviously, and this is going to be a welcome message that you can customize under your business settings, right? So if you missed this earlier, you go to business templates, and then we have a welcome message here. So this is the message you're seeing here on the self-booking interface. And here I'm gonna sign up. So let's say that I want to sign up my child. So I'm gonna put my name. So let's say Sam. And when you test the system, remember this trick. You can use a plus after your the initial part of your email with whatever you want. So I'm gonna say client@opus1.io. So if you missed this earlier in the video, this is a trick that allows you to create basically test accounts. The emails have to be unique, so this will actually be a different email. You can put whatever you want after the plus, but at the end of the day, the email will go to sam@opus1.io. This will be ignored, but is just a way to create different emails that go to the same mailbox, so kind of email aliases, if you will. A very convenient feature to test a system. So if you want to kind of have an idea of what your customer experience, and you want to create fake customers, fake teachers, fake parents, you can do that easily using that trick. We're going to put a phone number here, a password, and then this is my information and this is my dependent's information, right? So I'm going to put my daughter's name. And let's say she is, I don't believe we set an age restriction, but let's make sure she's old enough for private lessons. And create an account. So now I have an account created and I can finalize my booking. So a couple of things to see on this screen here. We get a kind of a summary of what we're booking, right? So booking a piano trial with teacher Joe. And on July 6th, 5:30 p.m., here's the cost. And so here, this is, obviously you could choose another kid or add another kid if we're booking for a different person. So I want to make sure here that my dependent, my child is selected. And here we can put some information about the student for the teacher, right? So that will help the teacher prepare for the lesson, right? So you can say Naomi is 6 years old and has attended a beginners group class and blah blah blah, right? So this will be a little bit of information that the teacher will receive when they will get notified that somebody booked a trial with them, and it will help them prepare for the lesson. So it is very useful. Next, you have your terms and conditions. So this is what you set up when you set up the terms and conditions for that service, for the piano private trial 30-minute service. So this would say, thank you for booking, and this is our cancellation policy, and maybe don't forget to bring your books, like kind of like the terms that you want them to review and accept before booking. And finally, what we're just going to go ahead and do is accept the terms and enter credit card payment information. So note that you need your account to be enabled for payments, right? So that's something you need to contact us for, and we will help you create an account with our payments partner. So here I'm putting a fake credit card number, obviously. And we're going to go ahead and book. So now the lesson is booked. So I had created an account for myself and my child, and I was able to book a lesson, and I have my lesson scheduled. If I click on my dependent, on my daughter's name here, I can see that actually that this is the note I left for the teacher. The teacher will be able to see that note. So now let's fast forward and let's fast forward. So I'm going to go back to the admin interface here, and I'm going to look up that student. We have a lesson. Now let's say that the lesson went well. The student wants to actually sign up, so we're going to do a booking. So we've done this before. I'm going to do it very quickly. So we're going to go to book appointment and set up a piano lesson, 45 minutes with a teacher starting on the 13th. And let's pick recurring, and we're going to pick, let's say, 6:30, whatever. Book on an ongoing basis. So monthly payments. I already have a card in the system now. That's the dad, that's the payer, and enroll and pay now. Okay, so now the student is enrolled for regular lesson. The trial already happened. So now let's go back to the client interface to see a little bit what it looks like. So I'm going to refresh here, and I can see now that I do have a few things. So I have a, let's ignore this. The trial lesson already happened. I just converted to weekly lessons, right? So I have my July lessons, my August lessons, and basically I'm on roll ongoing. I have a subscription. Here I can review the terms and conditions, and I'm actually going to be prompted on a regular basis until I'm done reviewing them. So as a client, I'm going to go to click and review. And if you remember earlier, we set up the service and we set up different sections with a little section break in between. So I'm going to click agree on every items, review what I'm paying for what, and all the different subscription settings, and submit. So now basically I have accepted the terms and condition, right? Okay, so now my terms and conditions are accepted. I'm ready to attend my lessons. Now let's assume, fast forward a few more weeks, I'd like to cancel a lesson. So I'd like to cancel the July 20th lesson. So if I click cancel, the system will show me the cancellation policy that you wrote in your service, right? So this is where you want to put something obviously a little bit more and a little bit better than this. So that's what we set up earlier when we set up the service for a piano private lesson. So you want to spell out your cancellation policy and explain what's going on. And here, because we set up that you can cancel lessons and get a makeup credit, I'm going to be able to get a credit, right? So if I click cancellation, as a client, I can self-cancel my lesson and I'm getting a credit right away. And I can also myself see that this was a credit issued for the lesson that was, it was issued on July 4th, but it's for the lesson that is that was supposed to be happening on July 20th, right? So now I can cancel multiple lessons. So let's say I want to cancel one more. I'm going to go ahead and cancel the 27th, for example. So again, I can get a credit. This is configurable. Now, let's say if I try to cancel another one, if I try to cancel the 13th, the system is going to tell me, well, you already reached your cap. You already have 2 active credits for this subscription. And if you can still go ahead and cancel it, if you're really not going to be able to make it, and if you're okay to forfeit the lesson, but you don't have to, obviously. So I can go ahead and not decide to cancel. Now, what I can do though is I can go ahead and use one of my makeup credits and book a makeup right away. So to do that, I'm just going to click use, and I'm going to be taken straight to the cell booking interface with the piano makeup private lesson. So here we have a setup here for private makeups, but if you had set up the credits to be issued for a group makeup, for example, I will be taken to the interface to book makeups for group makeups. So here I can actually go ahead and pick an available teacher. So you could have multiple teachers available for makeups. I'm going to pick Joe and pick a time for my makeups. And here, if you notice, we didn't set up any optimizations schedule optimization strategy for makeup. So I'm getting a pretty wide range of options for makeups. This is obviously configurable as well. I'm going to go ahead and pick, let's say, July 13th at 4:30 at the Palo Alto studio. And here, because I'm booking a makeup, there's no cost associated with the makeup, but I need to use one of my credits. So I'm going to go ahead and book. And here as a client, I can pick which credit if I have multiple credits. And if they, for example, have an expiry date, I can pick the ones that are still valid and that haven't expired yet, or those are likely to expire the soonest. And I can leave a little note for the teacher. Usually if it's a makeup, the teacher already knows you, but let's say you're booking a makeup with another teacher than your usual one, and you can say Naomi is working on book XXX would like to anyway, blah blah blah, some information for the teacher. Terms and conditions accepted, and book. Right, so as you can see, very simply, I can cancel lessons on my own. The system will enforce the cancellation policy. I will be able to use credits and book makeups entirely on my own. Additionally, you will notice that every time I leave a note, it will show up on my what we call client comments. And I can leave additional notes for the teacher. So let's say I forgot to let my teacher know something. I can actually leave a comment, and it's going to let me know, okay, who is this about? Well, this is about Naomi. There could be, I could have multiple kids and pick a different kid here. And I would like to, my teacher, if you have multiple teachers, you can pick which teacher should be notified of this comment. And it will be on your, on Naomi's account here. And here I can leave a little note and say, hi, Teacher Joe. I would like to know what is the plan for the next recital. And obviously Joe will be able to see that message and respond on Naomi's account as well. So you can have some controlled communication between students and teachers and students and parents without exchanging any private information, any email, any phone number, etc., etc. And of course, you can see messages that are exchanged very easily. If you also go to the client comments here, you can see the message that were exchanged, right? So for example, now I'm going to log in as a teacher, as their teacher. So I'm going to go to, we're going to pretend to be the teacher here, Joe Satriani, right? So I'm going to log in. I'm going to open another tab as a teacher this time. So as you can see here, I'm logging on as the teacher, right? So teacher is a limited staff. He will only see what is specific to himself or herself. And a couple of things here I can see. I can update some part of my own profile as a teacher. I can see my own payroll. We'll have a video specifically on payroll. I can change my password. I can access my files. So we support file sharing, so you can upload music sheets, music videos, anything you want, documents, and share them with your students. You can request time off, so you can do a time off request. We'll do probably cover that in the payroll video as well. And here I can see my students, right? So I can see my schedule, I can expand it, I can look at it in different ways. And I can see the classes that I have ongoing where I'm actually teaching, and I can see also who my students are. So for example, if I want to look at Naomi here, I can view comments, and I can see the comments sent by the dad here, and I can respond. So usually what a lot of schools do is have teachers put lesson notes at the end of the lesson. So we can say, let's assume we just had a lesson with Naomi and I'm the teacher here. We can say, great job today. Don't forget to practice for next week. And you can provide maybe more information. I don't know, let's say page 15 to 20. And practice left hand, etc., etc. And maybe you can answer the question that that the parent asked, what's the plan for the recital? So we can say, Naomi is getting ready for the recital that is scheduled in 2 months, let's say. And you can also provide attach a file, right? So you can say, okay, we're gonna upload a music sheet here. Let's say we have a music sheet here, so we're gonna upload this. So every teacher and every client have their own space where they can upload documents and share it with people that they have lessons with, for example. So you can go ahead and select that file, and we can say also, please check out the attached music sheet. Send. Okay, so now as you see, the teacher can leave lesson notes for the students, including a music sheet. And now if I go back to the window where I am the student, so this window, and I refresh here, I can see the message that the teacher left for me, and I can print that for my child, or I can show it to my child, or have them access their account. And I can also see the music sheet that was shared, right? So I have here a music sheet ready to work on. All right, so that's it for today. Thanks for watching. And as usual, if you have any questions, don't hesitate to contact us at support@opus1.io. Thank you. Bye-bye.